And welcome everybody to the Summoners Invitational. My name is, of course, Ewan Midnight Reed. I've replaced Baz on the desk here as we are kicking off the second split of the Invitational with quite a few tweaks that have come through. So I think first and foremost, let's cover the new changes that have come for split number 2 of the Invitational in 2020. The big bit of information, 16 teams are now fighting each other in 4 separate groups in a 2-week round robin system. This means, yes, it's probably a little bit faster than we were in Split 1, but we'll have our fight for finals after only 3 weeks of play, which will be very exciting to see. Of course, teams have a lot to fight for in their groups, as the first place team in each group will have to verse a second place team in another group to enter themselves the quarterfinals to make their climb up the ladder. But before they can make that climb of any degree, of course, they have to get through week number 1. And to look at week number 1 and the 16 new teams, I have, of course, Benjamin Tico Lee on my desk, as well as Adam Threat McKenzie, one of the newer casters to join Summoners Society. So, boys, how are you feeling for the kickoff of the Split 2 of the Invitational?
I am feeling so hyped for this. We got so many new teams, and I need to show you how hyped I am for this because, I dressed up for it, and it might not look like it, but I actually have, because behind this jumper is the most amazing tuxedo you've ever seen.
I was when we were loading in, like, buddy, we're dressing up for this. What is this? And then, of course, you've got to pull out the memes ready to go.
Let's do this.
Of course, you're newer to Summoner Society, man. How are you going, and how are you feeling for the second split of our Invitational?
I'm extremely excited. So, I'm obviously the owner of Ardour, but I follow the competitive scene quite closely, whether that be Iron to Gold, Iron to Plat, or the higher elo teams and everything. But I'm exceptionally excited for this split to happen, and just ready to see some really high quality gameplay.
Yeah, and speaking of that, of course, we have 16 teams in the Invitational, some returning from split number 1, and some teams joining the Wetworks from the get-go. So I think we've seen it on Twitter. I think it's been posted on the Facebook page as well. The power rankings coming in to the Invitational now. There are probably going to be a few disagreements about where some of these teams rank on the power rankings. I think, just so we introduce teams to some of the rerunners and the returners, that we can cover some of these teams. So I suppose, first of all, we need to look at the team that crowns the top of the power rankings, 95X Black. Now, on paper, this team is terrifying. They've got 4 OCS players, and, of course, their mid laner coming in as well, Rizza. So there's no question of mechanical talent coming in from the side of 95X. The only concern I have for 95X is none of the players have played before on the OCS roster. They may have played together in solo queue, but on the OCS stage, they have not actually been playing together. Bar, I believe, the top laner and the support have had a game together. I believe it was Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. So the question for me will be, they can win lane. There is no question on their mechanics, but will they be able to, what happens if they fall behind, and can they work as a 5-man unit? That will put them up against the other top-rated teams that we have here at the Invitational. And the joy is, we get to see them play in the second game on stream today. So we'll be able to answer those questions nice and early coming into the tournament. Now, but we're not just going to focus on top teams. Of course, there are 16 teams, and some of the teams on the power rankings, yes, we haven't rated them highly, but there are other teams on here, for example, MCom, that have rated lowly in power rankings, but still have a lot to offer.
Yeah, so if we're gonna flex Threat with our affiliation with some orgs he's worked with Ardour, I'm going to say, and I'm going to mention that I am part of the streaming team, part of the little flex, part of the streaming team for the MCom group. And honestly, I don't necessarily think they deserve to be number 12, but there are some good teams that are above them. I just think that they could be higher ranked, but there are reasons for that. Okay, so they are an amateur org. They've played all around Oceania. They've been in different amateur orgs. They've been in BSV, TMG. They've been Sumsoc. They've been everywhere. Like, if you go into an Oceanic League tournament, you're probably going to find an MCom team because they have so many different teams. They got so many different rosters. They're the main community, is what MCom stands for, main community organization. So, I mean, they have a lot of players on their team. And this team that they have right in front of us is a team that they've put together, which is full of their top players. They've got, well, I'd say they've got 3 mid laners because Guapo sort of counts as a mid laner, even though they put him in the support role. But they also have 2 members that are swapping between week 1 and week 2 in the mid lane. So when you hear the saying strength in numbers, I think of MCom because they have a huge amount of players. They can pick from whoever they want. They've got their own community, and I do think that their strength comes in with their numbers. So I mean, when you're talking about their roster, you can say their lineup consists of the finest members from the MCom community, and a lot of fire. I have to look at the bot lane with Guapo because I mean he's a large mid lane player. Why not put him in the support role? Make sure that you make sure that you have a little bit more fire, and then you can bring more power in the mid lane. Keep Guapo in the team, but make sure that you have a little bit more power there. So with their comps, also, I'm just focusing on a little bit there. They have a strong. They're looking to have strong pick compositions, but honestly, I'm a little bit worried about their team fight. So we'll have to see how they're going to play around that. I do expect this split push game coming in from the top laner, just because Chirp has so much split push power. But I think we are going to head it over to Threat, who I think we'll be talking about.
Ardour, maybe?
Ardour, yeah, he could be talking about
Ardour. I think he's got something to do with Ardour.
I think I might, So our roster has been together for like a fair while now. I'd say at least 6 months. So the boys are well acquainted with each other. We play multiple different styles. We do have like a few that are set in stone, but we're not going to reveal too much that happens, Obviously, from experience, a lot of people do look towards our bot lane with Selfish, with Suho, as we saw in the first season of the circuit, right? Ardour coming second overall. I can understand the 5th power ranking. There are a lot of highly motivated teams coming into this split. A lot of highly competitive teams as well. So we'll just have to see where the boys actually stand in regards to this. Just how hard can Ardour persevere and come through like all these other top tier teams? It's just throughout the whole power rankings, it's just high competition everywhere.
Yeah, and speaking of that high competition, I think it would be a little bit of a shame if we didn't get to talk about our returning champions. Marked, as you guys can see on the stream, the 2nd seed coming in to split number 2, Incel Gang. More commonly known as IG. We call them IG quite a lot there. I still will, unfortunately, guys. Sorry, but it just be like that, But IG have returned with effectively the same roster coming in to here. They have swapped out their jungler as well as they've upgraded arguably their bottom lane. So now they're more lethal than ever, and they've still got what made them the signature dominant team in the Invitational in Split 1. Blue in the top lane and Rookie QQ in the mid lane. They were, you could argue, the strongest and most dominant solo laners in their positions. Blue, we had people singing the man's praises on his ability to play aggressive. The fact you can go 1-on-6 in a Fiora and arguably be one of the most impactful members in the game shouldn't happen, but Blue can do it. So I'm very interested to see how this team works, more specifically in the bottom lane. They've upgraded their bottom lane. How will they be able to work with the Caitlyn, the Senna, the Ashe meta that's popping her up right now? Or will they simply say, Rookie Blue, let's do what we did Split 1, win lane, smash game from there. I'm so excited to see what they're going to be able to pull off. And hell, we'll get to see them later tonight. I mentioned before, Incel Gang and 95X Black will be facing up against each other at the 8 o'clock game. It is a game you do not want to miss if at all possible. Unless you've got dinner, in which eat at your computer because you're a gamer at this point. You should be able to do that. Now, of course, it's not just the high-end teams. We don't want to, we could just sing the praises of the top 6 ranked teams, and we could do that all day if we wanted to. But I feel like if we look at some of the lower ranking teams, and maybe look at why we haven't put them as highly. And I believe, Tico, you took a bit of a look at one of the lower ranking teams, and why they didn't exactly make it into top 6.
Yeah, well, it seems to be a common occurrence that I do look at the lower ranking teams. But I mean, well, I'm looking at the teams that you've decided to look at. I'm like, it's number 1, number 2, and number 3.
Oops.
Man, come on, man. Come on.
I got a flex.
He likes the glory. He likes the glory. But yeah, we are going to look at someone that's been placed 7th in the power ranking, and that is the 95X White. So being from the same org as the 95X Black, I mean, that's a high ceiling to get to. Because they consists of mainly OCS players. And I mean, yeah, they haven't played together as much or maybe not ever, but they are still like high ranked players. So you definitely have a lot to gain, have a lot to strive for when you're from the same organization. So I think that they'd be playing somewhat similar to the level of their organization counterpart. But it does seem like they work well together towards the late game with Inaichi's. With Inaichi, his picks are rather flexible. So he's got quite a few picks that he can bring into the top lane that allow for him to build around his comp rather than his team building around him. So he's got different picks like Quinn, Karma, Kale, Silas, Fiora. Those are his top 5 top laners. And that just shows you the diversity that he can provide for his team. He can be the carry. He can be the split pusher. He can be the one that dies the backline and makes sure no one else is alive. And he can also play somewhat of a supporty top lane as well, if Karma top is still a thing.
Oh, God. I don't want to see Karma top. Get that off my screen, Tico. Go!
Rush, tank Karma top.
Janna will be next. Janna top, just like tornadoes down.
Are we getting that again? Is it Janna, Soraka? Is that what the top lane we're going to be seeing out of them, Tico? I don't want to think about that.
Well, I mean, no, we won't be seeing a Janna top lane. But I mean, one can dream, right? One can dream.
Nightmare.
Yeah, I know. When we're looking at the rest of their team, it's not just an IG, because they have a solid mid laner as well. They have flex. I think this entire team is flexible because they can transfer their carry role to all 3 lanes, either in the top lane on the Kale, mid lane on Cassiopeia, or the AD carry. Any AD carry, like any of them, like Ashe, Ezreal sort of counts as one. You can go Caitlyn, Senna, sort of, but I wouldn't be surprised if they picked a Senna to pair with the Kale to make sure that the AD damage sort of equalize there. But yeah, so their flexibility is probably one of their strengths. And yeah, so I do think that if you are a team that's looking to take down 95X White, they should either look towards shutting down the carry lane early and taking away the Olaf from D'Albert because he's got an 89% win rate on Olaf.
That's disgusting.
It is 100%. No, not 89. Why was I saying 89? 58.
Okay, that was a lot more. That's a lot more manageable than a 90-something% win rate champion. Just get that off my screen. I don't want to see that.
Okay,
that crap.
Sorry, but in saying that, he's got way too many games on Olaf to let that one through.
Probably.
I'm just saying. Take away
now. Of course, there are a few returning teams. We will leap back up into the top 6. UTS. Now I think it's actually Thrall. I'll let you talk a bit more about UTS.
Yeah.
They're returning after what was a little bit of a disappointing run through split 1 of the circuits.
Yeah, so they were having actually like a decent run in the first split. And then unfortunately, I suppose some roster issues happened. They weren't able to form a roster in. So they just decided to completely pull out and they weren't actually competing in the first split, which was disappointing. All the other teams that they had diverse and everything got a free win, etc. But then, so this is kind of like a little bit of a redemption arc for them. So they've been performing incredibly well in the intervarsity for QUT. If anyone's been following that, it's actually been quite exciting. UTS have been pulling their weight well and truly. But yeah, so I'm keen to like see how they perform against these other high competitors.
Yeah, and especially in the group that UTS is in. We will talk about that in a little bit, but they're in a group where it's a bit of a scrap fest there. They have to go up against 2 new teams that we haven't seen in the circuit so far, as well as the returning Weekend Warriors. So UTS, how do you feel like they're going to go in that group? Just as a general spitball, do you think that this new roster will be able to stand the tale of time, or are they going to sort of disintegrate like Thanos when he does his click?
I'd love to see them be extremely competitive. I'd like to see them make it through just so then we can see more of UTS. Because we weren't able to see much of them prior, and now that they're back, they're ready, and they're ready to show us what they have.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see them go through and actually make a lot of progress.
Well, hopefully we will get to see them later on. So, as I think, hopefully they do go rather well. Now, we do have to talk about, I think, the third ranked team that we have coming back into our roster, Weekend Warriors. And what is alarming for me, and I say alarming, is that the roster has changed pretty much completely. Canna Kung Fu is no longer rocking that top lane. Their strongest, arguably their strongest member, Jungle Man, is pretty much the only returning member from this lineup here. And outside of that, the rest of the roster, I'd argue, is an upgrade. I think, this is going to sound so toxic, but I think they've managed to almost replace each member with someone who should be able to be a bit more dominant. Specifically, I'm sorry, Can, I love your org, but I think the new top laner you brought in for your org is going to be so positive for this team. You're bringing in a dominant top lane player, a strong side top player of Valiant. If he can work with Jungle Man, you could have, I'd almost argue, a strong enough 2v2 topside to tackle Blue on his own. So I'm so excited to see what they can pull off, as well as the discipline that Weekend Warriors have with their training regimen. Assuming that nothing has changed, they'll scrim multiple times a week in best of threes and then go over them. Like, there are so few community orgs that I know of that have this rigorous a training schedule. So coming in to the Invitational third ranking, I think is quite justly deserved. And I think this new upgraded roster gives them a hell of a shot to take down Incel Gang and even 95X Black if they play their cards right. If they fail catastrophically in our first game today against I think they're versing the Raccoons, I'm going to look like the biggest fool on the planet. So please don't let me down, guys. Please.
I'd actually like I'd like to add a little bit onto Valiant. So Valiant is Valiant is a younger player, right? So Valiant is a fairly young guy, incredibly skilled. He's subbed for Ardour a few times and he has done well. So I'm keen to see Valiant perform. He's a nice guy. I like him, but he's a great player as well. So I believe him paired with Jungle Man, force to be reckoned with. Do watch out for that combination.
Our top area, if you will. Now, we will be jumping pretty much from one side of the power scales to the other, as another returning team to the Invitational is going to be the Storm Wolves. And unfortunately, they've had a few issues in the circuit. Tico, would you like to maybe encompass that a little bit more?
Yeah, so hopefully the Storm Wolves are returning to the Summoners circuit with a little bit of fire. I don't expect them to win a draft. I don't expect them to draft a winning bot lane because a lot of priority will be put towards their mid-top side with Zixter and Mad Skills. Just because they seem to have a more dominant playstyle. I mean, when you look at the sort of playstyle that we see and the champions they pick in the bot lane, it just doesn't seem like they want to be going for the early game priority down in the bot lane. Yeah, they do have a couple picks like Lucian on loops, but you really don't see a Lucian in the bot lane anymore, do you? So, I mean, no, we don't. So when we're looking at the bot lane, yeah, I dislike that, but Mikuru in 95X White does play Lucian mid, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that one picked up. On Stormwolves though, the rest of the AD carries that we see on loops is Ezreal, Aphelios, Kai'Sa, Misfortune. A lot of the time you see these utilized for the mid to late game. Besides the Misfortune, I mean, you can use that to bully a little bit, but who sees a Misfortune when there's a Caitlyn? Yeah, and so when you look at the bot lane, not too much priority in terms of getting that early advantage, which then brings it all the way up into the top side, where we see Wukong, Mordekaiser, Aatrox, Renekton on the side of Mad Skills, as well as Zixter, who's got the Vladimir, Yasuo, Echo, Diana, Fizz. So they are playing... It is a little bit disgusting, but they are playing towards that. I wouldn't be surprised if they give a lot of priority towards that top side, towards that mid top side, because Jugmain also plays the early game junglers with the Lee Sin, Nidalee, and the Echo. So if we do see a lot of priority, it's going to be towards that mid top side. And then they should be able to, or the plan is to snowball that lead from the mid top side, bring it down towards the bot side, goon squatting the entire bot lane and make sure the enemy team has no remains left except for the pile of bones that they decide that they want to keep and not, crack.
And it's having like flashbacks to when I think it was like last year or 2 years ago, the meta was just 5-man TP bot lane, double TP, just make the 80 carry, not want to play League of Legends. Is that basically what we're going to be having flashbacks to, Tico, with this stumbles?
Look, I wouldn't be surprised with the sort of supports that we see from Hook of God. He's got Pyke, Thresh, Nautilus, and Lux.
And he's putting Suho. He's like challenging Suho for Hook.
Catch him and kill him. Catch him and kill him.
Yeah,
that's what that is.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, I've been seeing it in chat. It is 9 minutes until the first game will be kicking off here. If you can have a bit of fun with the pre-show, and of course, there's a lot of information to throw at you guys. Now, speaking of it, the last bit of information we will be throwing at you is, of course, the groups. The groups were selected via a marble race that was graciously casted by Formal. If you guys did get to see that on the likes of Twitter, it was quite phenomenal to watch there. So hopefully it is up on stream for you guys to see. So Group A is, of course, Weekend Warriors, Ukrainian Raccoons, UTS, and Dark Horse. Group B is going to be MCom, Fake News, Kraken Black, as well as the likes of Ardour. Group C is the Weeknight Warriors, 95X Black, Mutts Unleashed, as well as Incel Gang. And Group D, to wrap it all up, is Kraken Pink, Dissidents, Stormwolves, and 95X White. Now, we will probably, I'm upset to say we will not have enough time to dive into every single one of these groups here. So I think it's fair to say, because Tico, of course, you are the advocate on the desk for the likes of MCom. And Threat, I think it's fair to say that you are the advocate for Ardour. I would like you both to argue why your team will be coming out ahead in first place in Group B for me, please. Tico, would you like to start the debate?
Is it a little bit sad that I am saying that MCom's a good team, but honestly, Ardour, as a caster and a desk member, I honestly think that Ardour is going to take the cake. But
traitor! Traitor!
Razy, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I really love MCom and your organization. MCom is strong. Look, they have a good support. Guapo has been seen to do a lot of work in the mid lane. They've put him in the support, and they brought 2 new mid laners in towards that team to then say, hey, let's see if they can do a little bit of a better job than Guapo. But in saying that, that means they have a lot of potential on their side for carry. They have Guapo, who might even go carry support. I say carry support, but it's probably going to be Bard. But in the week 1 roster, MCom, they've got Super Cute, who goes on a Kassadin. His Kassadin, by the way, his Kassadin's on a 70% win rate.
You can't do numbers today, can you, Tico?
No, I cannot. Numbers is not good for me. But if we're talking about carrying, Guapo can roam towards the mid lane, get Kassadin ahead. If Super Cute gets his Kassadin to the solo queue style that we've seen it do before, the 70% win rate Kassadin, then that's the end game. That's how MCom wins against Ardour.
All right. All right, so then Threat, obviously, here's your time to clap back. Why and how is Ardour putting MCom into the ground?
If they pick Kassadin, just expect an AD mid, honestly. Lysair probably just picks Lucian.
Oh god, please don't make Lysair play Lucian. I don't want to watch it.
Lysair he can play Lucian, he can play Zed, like there's just so many different and if you see that come out in ban phase, like Lucian, Zed, you're gonna see a pretty quick Kassadin ban. It's just like no.
I mean, this is also the same Lysair who said that he was good enough to nullify Rookie QQ completely last split. Is that confidence?
Big fighting words. So Lysair has actually gone through a bit of coaching with a competitive player in another region who actually is a pro player. So he has gotten considerably better since first split. So I think.
So what I'm hearing is good.
Yeah. Wow. And like, Kappa, please don't hate me. Botnif? Kappa, please.
Fighting words, because what the joy of this setup in this fight is that Ardour and MCom are going to be taking on each other for our third game of the day. So we get to see where the real difference is going to be between these two. And if I'm not mistaken, Tico, you get the pleasure of casting that as well. So you get to be completely biased. Completely not biased. No, why would you be biased in a cast like that? No.
Yeah, so Threat, so when it gets to game 3 and I'm going through the pick and ban phase, I'm going to talk so much mad stuff about Ardour and you're not going to be able to say anything because I'm the only one on the mic.
Just keep an eye on Twitch chat.
Keep an eye out for Twitch chat. That's where he's going to be fighting back, guys. There is 4 minutes remaining before we dive into our first game of the night. As I said before, that will be Weekend Warriors facing off against the Ukrainian Raccoons. And I think we'll tackle one more group before we do dive into our first game here. And I would like to drag us down to Group C. I think Group C is the most terrifying group you could possibly be placed in. You've got 95X Black, who we've said is one of the strongest teams coming into this. You've got returning first place champions Incel Gang. You've got the Weeknight Warriors, who we did place low on the overall power rankings, but I would still say they've still got Flip Flop, who were there from the Weekend Warriors last split. So I'd still say they're a pretty powerful team. They just don't have the same, firepower they had last round. And then, of course, new and upcomers Mutts Unleashed. Now, Tico, what are your initial thoughts looking at this group? Do you think it's just going to be the 2-horse race of the first and second seed here, or are you expecting a bit more of a free-for-all coming out?
Honestly, if I was in Group C, and if I was in Mutts Unleashed, I'd be a little bit scared. I'd be looking up at these 3 titans. I'll be like, okay, well, iGang won first. 95X Black have OCS players. And Weeknight Warriors, they've got Flip and Flop, who basically carried them last split. So, I'm scared. I'm so scared for Mutts Unleashed.
Are you Ralph Wiggum in the like, I'm in danger? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
I also so with Weeknight Warriors, right? It honestly comes down to how big Flop's brain is. And I think Flop's brain is huge. So whether or not Flop's brain just goes and expands and just takes down 95X Black and Incel Gang, I mean, it's possible, And then they just hard carry, hard stomp, and we see some upsets, which let's see it happen, boys. Yeah.
That'll be so exciting to see and kick off there. We'll just go, because I've got 2 minutes to go, chat, so don't start riding on us just yet. Of course, a quick look down the likes of Group A, Weekend Warriors and UTS, of course, our 2 returning teams. Again, the expectation coming into here is it similar, or is Dark Horses truly going to live up to their name, Threat? What is your gut instinct on the Dark Horses?
Dark Horses, man.
I should have seen that, shouldn't
I? I'm just keen to see the play. I haven't caught up too much on their roster. But I'm sure if they're here, if they're part of the Invitational, they're a contender to still take serious.
Lovely. And then, of course, Tico, I'm going to ask you about the final group that we haven't really talked about too much. That is, of course, Group D coming in here of Kraken Pink, Dissidents, Storm Wolves, and 95X White. Now, I suppose the big thing here is the likes of the Dissidents. The other 3 teams, Storm Wolves have re-put their roster together. 95X White is relatively new in terms of being put together by the org. And Kraken has had a few struggles recently, unfortunately, which is why they're currently a bit lower on the power rankings. Dissidents is the only returning team with identical lineups coming in here. Is expecting Dissidents to be basically, look, Group D, you guys are fighting for second place? Or is one of these teams going to maybe grab at Dissidents' ankle and drag them down?
Well, I mean, honestly, Dissonance, they are a good team. I saw them play, just yesterday. We had Senior Burgers, Bose, Lanson, Vincent Jr., and 225 practicing what they need to in yesterday's game? I don't remember. Brain's muddled up. But you have to be very careful with Dissonance when it comes to 225. His Bard is mind-blowing. And the carry potential from Lanson is honestly something that you have to be scared of. So, I mean, if they want to deal with Dissonance, like Dissonance is probably one of the top teams in this group. So if they want to deal with Dissonance, it's not like they're not undefeatable, because there have been teams that defeated them. So the way that you should be able to take down Dissonance is take the bot away from 225. Make sure that one way that Lanson got countered was pick a neutralizing lane. So he picked an Akali, pick a Galio into that one. It's if you want to be able to stack up against the other teams, make sure you realize their threat and make sure you neutralize it or counter it.
Well, guys, without further ado, it is 7 o'clock. It is time to dive right into our first game of the day. It will be the Weekend Warriors facing up against the Ukrainian Raccoons, of course, casted by Mendrix and Firebit. So, guys, take away our first game of the Invitational.
Walking on ice, paper thin, skating on the surface of what might have been. Do you wanna be set free? Voices in the sound of the cracks are singing to me. Do you wanna be set free? If you come back looking for me, keep your eyes off the ground. Let me hear you take off for a drive. If you come back looking for me, if you come back looking for me, if you come back looking for me, I'll be right back. surface of what might have been. Do you wanna be set free? Voices in the sound of the cracks all singing to me. Do you wanna be set free? You wanna be set free.
right, hello and welcome. We are the casters, we are the ones who yell. My name is Fetch, this is Mendrix, it's the Summoners Society Invitational Circuit. I'm very keen, and these teams are already throwing some picks and bans out there.
Very quick off the back. They've already gone through. They know exactly what they're going to do and what they're going to say. Pretty much the bans, they seem pretty straightforward at the moment. Specifically, when I look at that, the ban coming across for the Kindred on the side of the Weekend Warriors, that's actually interesting. Jungle Man loves his Kindred pick, so probably has prepared something in return for that there. On the other flip side of it, though, they're basically banning out the ADs. They know how strong Mad Maximo is as well. And the big thing about the Weekend Warriors, they are actually throwing out a stronger group this time around compared to what they have. Basically an upgraded roster from before. The big question that everyone's going to be asking, though, is this new roster going to be able to perform well together?
It's always the question with these kind of rosters, and you talked a bit about how, like, we've got these kind of a basic idea of the Weekend Warriors, but the Urainian Raccoons are, relatively speaking, unknown, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, when I look at their lineup, basically there are some known members. I'm looking at Valaxis, looking at Park, so I expected there to be a relatively good performance there in that bot lane. But the other thing that comes into these players typically are well known. It's just they like to change their names around, which is the annoying part about it from time to time. So that being said, though, we have to see how these guys do end up performing. I mean, at this point as well, what I do like about these lower levels of play in terms of how these they turn out, their team play may not be the best, but that means it does allow for the individuality to shine. So that means if you are exceptional in terms of your role and what you can do, that means you can really show us what you're capable of and accrue advantages for your team through those individual lanes and, of course, in that role of the jungle.
I especially like that when you get when having set up that point. I especially like it that we've got like Akali and Graves in the game because they're like the pop off like individual. No, just sit there and do your thing. I'm the carry now. I like it. I everyone hates Akali, but I'm a big fan. All right,
I mean, she's been nerfed. Who knows that means? She's probably been nerfed more than Aurelia. Let's be honest at this point in time. But I mean, looking at the teams like you mentioned before, everything looks pretty good across the board. I guess the big sort of question right now is the Victor. The Victor is something we haven't really been seeing as much in competitive play. He's still excellent at that lane neutralization, basically saying, just stay away from me. I'm gonna wait until about 25-30 minutes. At that point, then we can play. And most of the time, if you really know how to actually play against it, you're doing pretty well. I do like the Ziggs in the bot lane as well. Ziggs is pretty damn hard to deal with. Lucian is also relatively, in terms of what he puts out there, is relatively low range, so the Ziggs can basically sit back and bully quite a fair bit. And there's not much that Alistar can do about it.
I like that. I like that nullifying the support and things like that. Is there anything else which kind of jumps out at you? Because we will be going to break very shortly, but just kind of anything else you wanted to highlight?
When I'm looking at it, I'd say like the late game really does appear to be in the side of the Urainian Raccoons. I mean, everything that says that, I mean, they've got the Victor, they've got the Graves. The Shen is fantastic protecting the main threats lines as well. The Alistar does an amazing job sort of being that as a pseudo front line, even though the Shen is there in this scenario. On the flip side of things, you've got excellent team fight, excellent siege potential with that big initiation go buttons, which of course will be the Sejuani and the Nautilus. So with a lot of catch there with the assassination potential. The thing that I like about the Weekend Warriors finalization of that round out is especially the idea of the Ziggs is sort of your late game insurance. He still hits like a damn truck at those later stages of the game.
Yeah, we saw in the Oceanic scene, Oceanic League of Legends scene, a couple of Ziggs flop, but that was mid lane, not AD carry. So I'm going to be very excited to see how this one goes. Of course, we will have to have a quick break before we get into the game properly, but it's close. I can taste it. The teams are keen. I'm keen. Mendrix, I'm sure you're keen as well, but that will be another couple of minutes. So stay tuned, and hopefully you are just as excited and keen for that. We'll be back in a sec. All right, we are in game. You've heard everything, all of the fantastic analysis from the desk earlier, our quick chat beforehand, our run through in the draft, but finally it's here. We're in game. Ooh, I'm excited. Mendrix, how are you feeling about this one?
Oh, I mean, I'm absolutely eccentric about this entire situation. It's the first game of the circuit. I am absolutely just looking forward to what these guys have done. If they've done any real training, have they had any major Rocky montages, really, where they've managed to like come out as a challenger at the end of the day? I just want to see what these guys can basically do with the time that they've had off.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a thing, and you talked a bit about how like bit of an unknown quantity in terms of the teamwork from both teams. You know, Weekend Warriors being a largely new team, except for that jungler, and of course, our Urainian Raccoons being, I mean, just a team we haven't really seen before outside of the individual players. So yeah, I agree with exactly what you're saying there. Looks like actually off this start, there might be a potential invade up onto that red buff. Who's a genius saying that Sejuani and Akali are going to look to roam? Pretty sure it's me. For reference, for those of you at home, we were talking
that's not
about...
a roam.
No, it counts.
That's them checking. I wonder if they have a ward here. I wonder if they're going to find out. And basically the whole point of it is to find out if the Sejuani is looking to do basically a red steal. That's what they're looking at. And the reason for that is because if Sejuani does go for the red steal, that's really going to be the only opportunity that Jungle Man will have to actually do so, because his Graves will farm up a storm. And Jungle Man is obviously very aware of that ignite that is actually being run by Urainian Raccoon at the moment. So that's the big thing there. Oh, it lands a hook.
Yeah, it was a pretty solid hook there. I mean, not much trading going to be happening just yet. I mean, Ziggs is good with that poke. It's going to be a bit more fired back and forth. Glad takes a bit of damage, but so does Velixis. And at the end of the day, that's kind of the trade.
Yeah, I was expecting there maybe to be a little bit more explosions coming out there, considering there's a Ziggs on the side of it. But both of these guys just choose to back away. You did see that there was a little bit of a cheeky push by Park into the tower. Didn't exactly get into range. And that's why I was a bit concerned about that hook landing, because when the hook did land, it wasn't a matter of, oh, sweet, like Nautilus can engage. It's more along the lines of, you're very close to the tower right now. What are you thinking? They tried to take advantage of it and unfortunately just missed out by that little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I still like
though.
the attempt. Oh, actually, yeah, you're right. The Nautilus coming up. I mean, Trick's not on a huge amount of health, but still managed to find the connection. There's the Sejuani as well. Going to jump in. The stun goes, and there's the Akali kill. I mean, you talked about the kind of a bit of a timer Akali was on. How do you feel that, like, what's the impact of that?
That's huge. Akali was specifically on a timer because Sash playing that Victor is going to be a lane neutralizer. He wants to sit back, push him away, basically just throw waves at Akali until that 30-minute mark when Victor does come online and becomes huge. I was kind of expecting Trick not to really find anything, but of course with that nice early roam, bringing in Jungle Man as well, basically using the pressure in that bot lane with that Ziggs push, allowed Gladimode to make that roam, and that basically means that this Akali will hit a power spike just before Victor hits 5 or 6. That means either A, Trick can try to go for the solo kill on Satch, being with the advantage of having that initial first blood in the pocket, or B, basically look for a quick shove just before 5. That way, Trick will be able to at least get a roam off the back of this 6, because the thing here as well is there's no teleport from Satch. So that means that Trick is going to be allowed to roam and land something, and a hook also lands.
Ooh, a bit of a fight here going in. Park's actually taken a fair bit of damage. Sejuani has roamed down to the bottom side, took the Herald, and now looking on Park. Will be a little bit before get that stun. One more auto attack, and that should be just about it. Is going to get the shatter. Is actually going to be able to get the Ziggs off the bouncing bomb, and they're going to try and take out Lucian as well. He's going to have to go for the dive if they want that one. Pretty happy to leave that be, and 2 kills. The Sejuani doing a lot of work for her laners.
I really love Jungleman's pathing. Everything is actually just very unchoreographed. What they do is they figure out, okay, where is the Graves going to be? That ward being discovered earlier sort of illustrated are definitely starting blue at this point in time. Otherwise, we'd probably find a Graves there, not a ward. That means I can actually path down towards my bot side. We know that we had an initial roam beforehand, which was pretty effective. Well, I think this would be a trade here, but I don't think Valiant's going to find anything. What was cool about Jungle Man's initial pathing, though, was the fact that he chose to forego the red buff and actually go in for an early gank after Gladimode's return. The reason why that's very important is because in the back of everyone's head, you sort of have a timer of when the jungle is typically going to gank. It's like, all right, he should be on his red right now. That means we should be relatively safe to continue pushing out. No, not the case. Jungleman says, I'm not on it right now. I'm actually going to be elsewhere. And that means he's able to get a successful gank off.
And meanwhile, there's a nice little counter roam coming in from the bot lane of the Weekend Warriors, or the support, I should say, specifically the Weekend Warriors. Alistair walked up, tried to get a vision around. I believe was spotted out on a ward, so Nautilus was just hanging around there, ready to counter that one out. Sky looked a little bit under a bit of threat there, but meanwhile now they're looking to punish the Ziggs for being a bit out of position. Really doesn't have flash anymore. He has no mana at all. The Nautilus hook goes wide, so this should just be the kill cleaned up. You got to think that Glad is going to have to run away from that one. Alexis in the 2v2 managed to get it. Meanwhile, Graves is just running up into the top lane. This is a pretty good situation. This Crocodile's gonna have to run the opposite direction. Meanwhile, there is no help in sight for Valiant, and they're just gonna get absolutely run down. Good a flash over the wall, actually. Never mind, I might have to eat my words on that one. And actually, the Croc does escape, having burnt the flash. Doesn't have teleport to get back into lane, though.
Yeah, that was very well played by Valiant, realizing that most of the gap closers had already been used. I mean, in most cases, the Graves doesn't have a flash actually follow through on that, and the Shen was out of range even with a flash taunt, simply because of that little bit of extra distance that Valiant had pulled up with their initial roam afterwards. Add to the fact that Valiant's Slice and Dice would actually be coming off cooldown relatively shortly. They basically thought there's no point chasing it, we'll just let this Croc get released back into the wild. Going back to that bot lane initiation that happened before, Mad Maximo just was a little bit too far extended, not respecting the fact that the Elsa would be coming back after that failed roam. Without his support, was basically going to be dead in the water there. So as we can see there, nice pickup and nice recognition coming across from Raccoons. And here we go again. That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. That push back into tower. I mean, the target selection on the AD carry, but didn't seem to pay off.
Wow, so this is the thing what I love about Alec. I got to actually explain it not happening, and then the second time ends up being so perfect directly afterwards. That was just well played by Park. Park's always been very solid in support role. In most cases, they're not. And really, the Gladimer just wasn't respecting the capabilities of Elsa, which has been out for ages. Everyone knows he's got that knockbacker. Raccoon, I don't think he's going to find anything, but at least he's putting some pressure out.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, they both have level 6, so that's about it. But like you say, not much. Stunfield goes down, and Akali just kind of hangs around. Oh, a big jump in with Sejuani. Going to drop the ultimate as well. But nothing else coming of that one. She's just there for the jump scare.
Yeah, really, Jungleman just missed out by that little bit. If Jungleman was actually able to land an initial stun off one of them there, that actually wouldn't have been a kill. Like, Trick's kill potential is absolutely ridiculous. Even though that Hextech Gunblade isn't even completely dead, basically with a follow-up damage or percentage damage from Jungleman, they could have netted a kill if the ultimate actually landed. Because it didn't, unfortunately for them, none of them get frozen up, and that means that it will be just a 2-2 game for the time being.
Yeah, that's as it sits right now. I mean, Herald not going to be up in too long, and they are trying to get that priority over the mid and the top lane. Finally, Renekton is trying to get the push in. Has small CS. Small CS lead actually probably won't after this resets. And normally we talk about like Renekton as a character who wants to really wants to bully. It's a big trade they're going for, but you know they are the bulky tanks up in the top lane. So. What do you? How do you feel about that Renekton kind of matchup? Because of course he's not going to have the. Yeah, give us some thoughts. Give us your thoughts.
Basically, yeah, Valiant's doing what he needs to do. Basically, keep it shoved up. Essentially, needs to hold on to his Slice and Dice. He can't use it too aggressively. Otherwise, you will see a Graves basically roam up there and take advantage of it. Jungleman's actually finding an invade against this Graves at the moment, which is interesting. But I do like the way he's going about it. Basically, he will get an advantage off of the. When he does get his Blade of the Ruined King, that seems to be what he's going for now. That will be basically the go point for Renekton at this point, because Shen has the ability just to nullify most of the damage coming out of Renekton with that Spirit's Refuge. Basically, if he puts down that circle at that point, Gladmo finds the hook.
Yeah, the flash hook over the wall. Flash for flash support for that mid lane. I don't think that was that flash. Nope. Doesn't have it. So, there we go.
Yeah, Roams are absolutely deadly. Yeah, in this scenario here, basically, Renekton can still get out-traded in most cases, but thankfully, because he has opted in for that Vampire, he's his Slice and Dice. He's caught!
The taunt just connected at the edge. Use the Dominus, try and get a little bit more health. The Ignite from the Graves, you talked about it earlier. It can do some damage. Definitely can do some damage, and it gets the kill with the last little bit of health.
That was actually just Valiant being a bit too aggressive. He thought he had his cooldown right in time to actually make it work. He was definitely trying to find a stun onto Shardblade. If he was able to find it, he would have been able to chunk out a decent chunk of damage. But basically, the Slice and Dice out just wasn't enough. He needed to go a little bit further away from the Shen. Ended up going closer in towards his minions, probably trying to see if he could get around them in order to actually nullify some of the damage coming from Graves. And by doing so, put him back within that taunt range, and that ended up being him dead. And basically, the Graves walking away with a pair of alligator shoes.
Yeah, he's starting to make some of that. Starting to make Renekton's life just the tiniest bit inconvenient. But like you said, Valiant doing the job. at the moment. I had another point I was going to make. Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say, because I don't believe I've said this to the audience. Everyone else may think that this mid lane Victor pick is boring, but I want to see him get to late game and one-shot people. Like, at the moment, he's 0-1 down. Actually, sizable gold lead down at the moment. Like, that's like 27 CS or something like that.
He's probably gonna have to wait till 40 minutes. Oh, nice.
Sorry,
launch.
actually, there's an engage going in, and the Graves managed to find way the bot lane as well. Man, Maximo does use the flash, but it's a little bit not enough, a little bit too late. Yeah, not quite enough. The culling comes out, and they actually might be able to get this dive. Good stopwatch from the Nautilus. Keeps him alive for a little bit longer. Urainian Raccoon, the player, just clearly wanted to go for that, but was like, nah, let's just take drag.
Yeah, he made a little bit of an issue there, went in just a bit too early. He might have actually been able to find something if he waited that out correctly, but because he came in too early, took that extra tower shot. Carly, no. Yeah.
I mean, she's a Kali, right? She'll be able to get out. She can survive that. That's fine. Doubt we're going to the steal, considering Sejuani is completely elsewhere on the map, but oh no, this might be dangerous for the Nautilus. Remember, he doesn't have hook. The dredge line's not bad. Managed to get away from the stun field, uses the ultimate, but at the end of the day, just too much damage from the Graves. I don't even think you need to commit that ultimate, but you know, why not?
At that point, he did throw it out there purely just to see if he could get away. He will basically be back by the time... Well, he'll be back up by the time he needs it, so 9 times out of 10, it is better to actually just use your ultimate as a Hail Mary and hope that it actually gets you out alive. The other factor to take into account here is that they had to just give up, concede the dragon. You've lost your entire bot lane. There's all this pressure in the mid lane as well. As you can see, Trick ended up missing out a decent chunk of CS off the back of that as well. I mean, she's still up, so she doesn't really need it, but still, you get 3 members. The priority is currently mid-side. You just give up that dragon. You got nothing you can do about it. By trying to get it, though, they end up losing more. Trick, again, loses a bit of extra CS, loses a bit of experience, and you lost your support's life. It was insane to see if they could make something happen.
And also, Graves is suddenly... Sorry, not to completely, like, hard shift to the point, but Graves is just suddenly 3-0 as well. You're talking about Graves, like, hard farming, becoming a threat. Seems like, right now, that threat's becoming a reality. Actually, he's jumping down to the bottom lane. This is a bit of a... this is actually a 3v3 right now. Looks like Nautilus is the target once again. I mean, he's not that tanky right at this point. The dredge line almost enough. The Ignite is there. Now they're going to turn on to Sejuani as well, with the culling just zones off Ziggs. They only take 1, but... Seems like one's still a positive trade.
Yeah, Urainian Raccoons have really recognized at the moment who actually have the strong side of the map. They're actually going for more.
Yeah, that was actually Sejuani got blown there. No, it wasn't. Never mind. I saw the circle and I was a bit confused. I think that was Ziggs. There's the ultimate coming through at the end. Here is the teleport down from the Akali. She's going to try and get in. Here's very, very low. Managed to get 1 kill. We've seen Akali's outplay those, but here is Shen as well. Everyone is down this bot lane. And realistically, it just, no matter what, doesn't feel like, even with that shutdown of Akali, I don't know how I feel about this.
No, I mean, I'm looking at it, most of that shutdown was actually on the Graves there, so I'm completely fine with accelerating your Akali off the back of it. The Raccoons bit off a bit more than they can shoot. Here we go again.
Yeah, straight back in right now. The Weekend Warriors trying to do everything they can to try and turn this fight around. They managed to get a 1-for-1 trade, I think, at the very, very end there. But at the end of the day, yeah, it just seems like every time they go in, they're kind of losing something to the Raccoons.
Yeah, I mean, the Raccoons are being aggressive here. I like what he did there. He actually used the the Riptide there to actually make it look as if he was about to throw his hook, and that forced it to actually stop their backs. So that was actually a very nice little cheeky move that he made. Specifically, the big thing here is that they should have just taken their initial win and got away with it. I was about to say and actually sing the praises of the Raccoons previously. They recognize that their bot lane is quite strong at the moment. This Lucian has been quite the silent warrior, has amassed that 302 at the time was 201. Was quite strong against what should traditionally be a lane that they should lose against purely because the Ziggs has that extra reach. He's up in CS as well. All they need to do is basically just keep hitting this weak point, and eventually you'll find that the Weekend Warriors will fall down. But they keep on, even after they get their initial wins, they keep pushing forward. They give away some shutdowns. They sort of slow things down a bit, and I think they're giving a little bit of momentum back, actually, to the Weekend Warriors in the process of doing this, where they could have been well and truly ahead at this point.
And Weekend Warriors, on top of that, also just drop the Heralds in the bot lane to try and get some of that power back for Ziggs, of course. Shared gold and whatnot, turn that into an invade on the blue. Graves kind of hanging around the top side right at the moment. Doesn't seem too poised to do much with the players under their towers, actually. Graves is going to swap the blue on the top side, so realistically, I mean, it doesn't seem right now like the Weekend Warriors feel too bad about this. They're still up in gold, even in spite of being down on kills and down 1 dragon. They still seem pretty confident.
Yeah, a lot of that really does come down to the fact that Ziggs is amazing at just taking towers. I mean, at the moment he's waddling around there, as you can see, but part of it is that they should be actually putting a lot of priority onto that Rift Herald, because Rift Herald typically will take the towers down within basically that range. Lixus is just killing himself. We'll put the tower down low enough for the Ziggs to one-shot it with his satchel charge. That means that the charges were essentially free every single time they let it go through. I'm surprised they actually didn't pick up the next tower directly afterwards, so it was actually well done by the Raccoons to stop the initial charges from continuing. But this next Herald will be important, and I think that's a dead Crocodile.
That is a dead Crocodile. It's a very dead Crocodile. Shardblade doesn't even stop tanking the tower. It just says, yeah, I'm a real tanky boy. I'm just gonna take that.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah, what I was surprised about before. Sorry, no, go on, take your point.
Well, but basically, you look at the Shed now. Shed's at that break-even point, or that break point, where he has enough armor to actually take up roughly 3 to 4 different shots there. With the damage that the Graves has, you can see he used his Ignite there. It's basically going to be easy dive every single time, because this Renekton has opted in for a very offensive build. As you can see, he's got that Blade of the Ruined King complete, which is nice in the 1v1 scenario, but 2v2 wise, with the ability to actually stop and stun you in place, that is not what you want. So this Crocodile will be having a very rough time as the game goes forward. As long as Shardblade remains careful, doesn't look for a one-on-one, just waits for that 2v1 scenario every single time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been working, right? Like that Crocodile is very far behind. Shard sitting at 2-0 and 2. Bit of a play potentially being set up in the mid lane. Vision control going to the Weekend Warriors. Lucian could be a prime target. He still has flash available. He still has his mobility, so he'll have to be a big engage Sejuani ult, something like that coming. He's hanging around the top side as well. Knows that Graves is there. That jump in from Ziggs. This actually might have been the counter gank in the end of the day. There's the Graves jumping in, gets ulted from the Nautilus. This would be the CC chain, actually tanked up by both of them. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. So many ults dropped that the Weekend Warriors come away with 2.
That was very patient from the Weekend Warriors. Actually sit there, make sure they can continue to protect the Ziggs off the back of it. Ziggs is fantastic at just basically pushing the waves forward. You really do need to overextend to actually find an opportunity onto him. This was recognized by the Weekend Warriors. They tried to take advantage of the fact that he was just a little bit further forward, but still in a position where he'd be able to escape easily. They tried to force the ladder and immediately find themselves basically behest to the damage that is the Ziggs with a nice easy setup, purely because one, Gladimer was there and Jungleman was there. They jumped on it, they get that, and now they're just taking the rest of the map in the process of doing this. Basically, quick shove up, they're going to get this Rift Herald, which is huge, and actually Trick will be very well versed to actually verse the Shen at this point, and that's actually an advantage of getting Trick a little bit accelerated on top of this Victor. No one can really handle Trick at the moment. So I can really see them beginning to move around the map, doing a lot of different things, basically taking advantage of that Rift Herald they pick up, using the Ziggs to really just demolish these towers, while everyone's still struggling to figure out how do we handle Trick at the moment, because they won't really have an answer until that 30-minute mark, and everyone's beginning to get to 3 to 4 items.
Yeah, and I mean, I was gonna say it, like you painted the picture perfectly. I really liked how much Weekend Warriors got off the back of that. It's impressive, and we won't have any objectives up for the next little while. So, you know, probably not as much fighting, things like that, taking it easy, taking a second to breathe, everyone to calm down. And I mean, Renekton now looks like he's still going indexing into some more damage items. What do you do with itemization when you're an 0-3 Renekton right at the moment?
The thing is that by going down the path of the Blade of the Ruined King, you've sort of essentially slot yourself into it. So basically, you will keep on building damage. Once you get to 2 to 3 items, the beautiful part about Renekton is he can still kill most squishy champions. So looking at the Victor, looking at Graves, looking as well at Lucian, these guys can still be blown up by a relatively well farmed up Crocodile. All you need to actually do is complete, again, that Black Cleaver and perhaps maybe another damage item, probably expecting it to be a Death's Dance, and that should be enough to actually either A, force them out of the fight, or B, basically put them in the ground. And although at this moment in time he's not there, and I think he's gonna have to run away.
Yeah, he's running away, but it seems like a pretty calm kind of walk more than anything. Oh. Great hook connecting, and it's actually the dodge in from the from the cow, who's able to block that one. Meanwhile, the fight's still happening in the top half. Everyone going down on the side never mind. Akali's jumping in and actually getting a good trade back. I thought the Weekend Warriors might have been in a very awkward position up that first engage. Didn't quite work out, but Akali popping off the backside, and it felt like Galactus maybe not having the room to play. 3 quickly for the Weekend Warriors. They turn around what I thought might not be a great fight after that big block from the Alistair.
best part about these 15-minute to 25-minute teams. You have the engage button. You have the proactivity. You can force the fights when you feel ready to do so, especially because of how much value Gladimo is actually getting out of that aftershock. Even though, yes, they managed to sort of stop the initial fight from coming into it, where they were still in a fantastic position to go forward. They were still in a position to continue doing the damage. You could see the Ziggs was basically free hitting across the board, and then basically by landing the majority of the damage with that Mega Death Rocket, well, not the Mega Death Rocket, but the Mega Death Bomb. I don't know, there's too many different Mega Deaths that you could actually have at the end of it. I'm gonna have a quick look to see what the name is. The Mega Inferno Bomb. That's
Mega
what
Inferno
it's
Bomb,
referred to. The Mega Inferno Bomb, if it did manage to land, chunking out a number of the members, and that's basically a smorgasbord for the Akali to come in. Absolutely clean off the back of it. And now what would seem to be the Raccoons having a bit of an advantage, being able to make something happen, has really shifted into the advantage of into eventually the Weekend Warriors at this moment in time, purely because they were patient. They recognized that their power spikes will be coming around this skirmishing mark, that 15 to 25, and all they had to do was either A, wait for them to play into it, or B, make those engagements happen, purely because it's a very reactive team from the Urainian Raccoons, which is, funny that they're reactive because, uranium.
Yeah.
So the big thing about this, though, is that if you look at it, they are waiting for the Weekend Warriors to either play into them or just let them farm up. The Shen is all about saving someone once a fight breaks out. The Victor is not going to start anything. Maybe the Alistar sort of does have a go button, but it's not as good as the Nautilus. It's not as good as the Sejuani. So yes, he can engage, but really, when it comes down to it, they're just waiting basically for everyone else to start something, and then they go for it. And here's an engage.
Yeah, but I don't know about engage. That was just someone getting absolutely picked off. I mean, Gladimino is gonna keep walking along, but they just kind of pop the Graves right as the Dragon's about to go down as well. Oh, sorry, sort of be contested as well.
I don't even think that was a pick off there. Raccoon just walked in there and gave himself to the Weekend Warrior gods. He's like, yeah, I'm here. I am ready to be sacrificed. Walked in, and everyone's like, all right, let's put him on the temple and just, do what we need to do. Take the heart out. Sweet, cool, sweet. Basically at that point, you can see tricks like, I want to take the brain. They're basically choosing the organs in that point afterwards. I'm not too sure what was happening there. Maybe they were expecting Shardblade to jump in for an ultimate on top of his head, keep him alive long enough for the rest of the team to respond, but they just weren't on the same page at that point, and it's going to be another easy pickup there for the Weekend Warriors to really start running away with this game.
Yeah, and like to your point about not quite knowing what the plan there was, I feel like Urainian Raccoon has been in that bush for a fair while. Like, that wasn't just step in this bush. Whoops. Like, that happens to everybody, right? Trick trying to get a bit sneaky, stealing away objectives. But yeah, Urainian Raccoon had just been hanging out in that bush for quite a while at that point. So, I don't know either. But I mean, only 2 dragons taken for the side of Weekend Warriors, so that's not like the imminent threat right now. But that like 6k gold lead probably is. Well, almost happened again there.
Yeah, it does dodge out just slightly for it. I mean, as well, he used the ultimate from the Ziggs there. I guess he thought that maybe they were hiding in there just to decided to get a little bit antsy and pull the trigger that little bit early. Everything here now is basically waiting around objectives. I think they might find him. Nope, not going to get him. Basically, everything they're going to be doing right now is maintaining control of this top side of the map so they have access to the Baron if things actually begin to move in their favor that little bit further. At the same time, if not, then they'll just revert back to that 1-3-1 formation because Valiant still be able to handle the Shen. That itemization allows him to be able to do so. And as well, this Akali is typically safe, but not at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put the Twilight Shroud under the tower, and now Redecton's teleported in as well. Can't cancel that, and that's going to be awkward for them. Not a huge chunk into the gold lead eaten up for them, but definitely a chunk they could have avoided losing.
Yeah, that was just Trick not respecting what can be done from the Urainian Raccoons there. He was just too far pushed up there. He needed to actually be keeping a better eye on the minimap. If he was doing that, he would have recognized that they were beginning to make their move in. Even though they do have the majority of the top side cleared out, they don't have the wards in place just yet. And that means that Trick basically stayed a bit too long while they were clearing out that top side. And because of that, they were able to find themselves 2 kills, purely one because Valiant thought the rest of the team was going to be there to back him up on that TP, and that Trick might have survived a little bit longer. Not the case. The towers can see Akali at that point now. She's no longer true invisible, so she was basically easy pickings for the rest of them, and this is a bit of a respite, isn't it? Here's the engage, though.
Yeah, back in. Gutsy Alistair. I don't even think he popped the ultimate there. I think he was just like, nah, I don't.
It's just Ardour. I think at that point, that's the thing I was getting at before. Yes, you do have an engage from the Elsa, but it's not enough Raccoon. I think he might get caught.
Yeah,
it's
I
good.
think we've seen this before. There's a lot of ults dropped on the top. He's actually survived a fair way, and that almost worked out with that the Victor stun field. They're cutting back a little bit, so they have a decent opportunity, but I mean, the entire side of the Weekend Warriors haven't been touched, like we saw this fight, which happened the exact same spot before. Whoops, Victor, you might have wanted to take that ride yourself, buddy, and at least he gets his teammate out, right?
Yeah, just little mistakes basically beginning to accumulate more and more victories for, of course, the Weekend Warriors here. Yes, they had a bit of a misplay there, but the big thing that actually happened was the fact that that was just poor back locations. They didn't respect for the fact that, yes, people are alive again, people will be making their way back onto the Rift, and they just found the catches nice and easily. They pick up 3 members, they pick up the Baron. That's essentially the nail in the coffin now. I don't think there is a way that the Urainian Raccoons can dig themselves out of this grave.
Yeah, I think you're right. Normally we say that like 10k is the you're done, dusted, go next. Like no matter what, that's the end point, and we're pretty damn close to there, given the way the team's playing and all of that. I don't think your statement's too far off the point.
I mean, I'm looking
and
at
with
this
Baron
Ziggs.
as well, just thrown in a two. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking. Like, the thing is that this Ziggs with Baron and the rest of the team basically around the back of it, just let them. All they need to do is go mid now. Just drop a satchel charge, kill it. Like that seriously, that tower is in satchel charge range. Right at the moment, they're sitting around farming up. They literally can just take this Baron and win the game now. That far ahead. I think they're just playing a little bit too carefully. The Ziggs is 700 gold bounty. He's got basically 4 items. I mean, I guess if you include the boots, that's 4 items. But as a pretty much fully stacked ring, hasn't converted it yet into the Magi's. May not do in the process of it, but it is a completed Rabadons. It is a completed Void Staff, and of course the completed Ludens. That's more than enough firepower to make something happen. And yeah, I mean, even look at this. They decide to unload onto Nautilus. He's still basically a machine, tanked up enough. They only took out 10% HP, and here's the engage.
yeah, exact same story once again. It is that Graves being caught out, Trick doing some work into the back line, gets nudged away actually, and so isn't able to get the distance on the ultimate. But I mean, they're gonna have to pull back. The Raccoons, they aren't able to contest this. Like you say, tower just goes down in an instant. Didn't even see if satchel charge was needed for that one. They can just kind of poke it down. Got one tower, probably going to move down to the bot lane if those pings are anything to go by. And that tower was also pretty low. So off that one pick, two towers.
Like you said, see, the satchel charge symbol's there, which means the Ziggs can take it. But Ziggs also at this point, his empowered auto attack of his passive is still enough to actually kill it as well. So it doesn't really matter. They've got 2 ways to do it. Like, it's just stupid watching Ziggs at this point in the game start to take towers. You leave him alone in the lane, he will be at your Nexus in essentially 5 minutes flat. Not even. I'd say 3 minutes flat, he's there. The way he waves clear, you basically have him from his base to yours in 3 minutes at this point. And that is absolutely bonkers. It just, you cannot really just let him be alone. You do need to be on him like a bed of honey as many times as possible, because if you leave him alone, he'll just straight out win the game. And I don't even think they have a way to get to it. There's a massive front line looking at the Nautilus, the Renekton. I mean, the Renekton's, he's not there yet, but he's still a pretty chunky front line when he does pop that Dominus. And of course, you do have the Sejuani, who is looking extremely big, 2-0-10. Look at that damage. Like, I mean, they're trying 2v1. They can't even do anything against Trick.
Yeah, that's it. And that's one taken down. I mean, not going to have the ability to get to the second one. But, like, yeah, 2v1. Trick takes it and almost gets the double. It's just the fact that Urainian Raccoon was able to get out using literally all of their cooldowns.
Right. Look at this damage. Look at that. Look at this. Look at that.
This is silly.
What is this? Like, what? What?
This fight's interesting one as well. That's going to be... that's going to be it. All right.
Yeah.
There's
I think they realized at that moment in time that basically they did have to just tap out. It was basically an insurmountable lead that had been generated by the Weekend Warriors. They had a pretty good start from the Urainian Raccoons. They were playing really well. Their Graves was definitely big, but they just took too many fights too early, just pushing that a little bit too much in terms of trying to get that lead and advantage, and ended up throwing it away.
Yeah, all right. I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about kind of before we like throw it back to our wonderful big brains at the desk? In general, I would definitely say that the Weekend Warriors are looking quite strong, specifically because they were able to fight from behind. They were behind at the start. The fact that they can actually come back and do something is a sign of a team that is on its way to being quite strong. All right, cool. I'm gonna do the thing which, absolutely like. absolutely everyone hates, which is who do you think really like pulled their weight the most in that game? I'm not going to call it an MVP because I think this is just more who do you like?
To be honest, I really did like Jungle, man. I think it's been something that's been beaten to death or milked as many times. I'm milking this cow once again. The initial move arounds were amazing. Jungle Man's typically a carry, but the fact that he can jump onto the Sejuani, basically put on a very convincing performance, get the exact objectives that they need, and then from there really allow them to actually bridge to that 15-minute mark effectively. I mean, those engages were on point too. I mean, very close behind Glad Minimo, of course.
Yeah. I mean, they were the team, right? They were the duo. They worked together. But more discussion on that, because you've heard enough from us. We're going to be passing it over to our wonderful desk. Midnight, take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you very much, of course, for casting the first game and kicking off the Invitational with quite an explosive bang here, Weekend Warriors and the Urainian Raccoons. Apparently not Ukrainian. I got the nationality wrong on that one, as game number 1 of the split showed a revamped Weekend Warriors facing up against the newcomers of the Urainian Raccoons, named after, of course, their jungler. Now, there is quite a lot to look in that game. I think we talked about it in pregame. I think it has to be talked about now. Weekend Warriors, the roster that they're running, and I want to talk specifically about this bottom lane. Their new support seems to almost be an upgrade, an improvement to what they ran in the first split of the Invitational. So,
Yes.
do you want to look at this new man?
Yeah, well, I was actually quite impressed. I'm a support main myself, so watching him on the Nautilus was really impressive. Like, he was super aggressive. He was really, really active with his roaming. Every time he had flash up as well, he'd just run mid and be like, "Well, I see you have flash. I have flash. Let's change that. Let's change that right now." The first blood coming out with Jungle Man as well. So Trike, Jungle Man, and Glad Minimo. They were all just in mid lane. They collapsed. There was nothing this Victor could do. There was no way out. And it was 100% worth on the side of Weekend Warriors. Just explosive. Just super explosive early game.
Yeah, and the new Weekend Warriors lineup did show us some really strong strengths here. They showed some fun drafting. They pulled out the Ziggs in the bottom lane for what was a pretty disgusting, I believe your words, Seiko, a disgusting combo of the Rift Herald charge and then the Satchel charge to pretty much say, hey, that turret, no, it's rubble.
Yeah, no, I do like that they prioritize both Rift Heralds, because they dropped one bot lane, they dropped one mid lane, and they're like, all right, we're just going to take two turrets in each lane. So drop a Rift Herald, and it's like, all right, we've already lost that turret. Let's just back up to the tier 2. Oh wait, no, they're gonna get another charge. Never mind, we're dropping 2. Let's drop back to the inhibitor.
It's rough. Yeah, it was quite rough for the Raccoons there, but it wasn't all without hope. At about 23-minute mark in that game, we did get to see signs of life coming out of the Raccoons. There was a top lane ambush. We got to see, Trick up there on the Akali pushing the tier 2. And then I think it was it 4 or 5 members of the Raccoons decided to just rock around the corner, and Valiant made probably not the best TP he's ever made.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a little bit of a problem that Trick was pushed up too far with no support. And I mean, yeah, sure, he had the support of Valiant with teleport, but really, that's not going to be too great if you die instantaneously, if you just internally combust and then you just disappear off the face of the rift. So, I mean, you have to be wary of that sort of thing. Yeah, you might have warded up, but it's not enough when you see 5 members coming. There's one on the flank behind you, and that's the Nautilus who's willing to trade a flash. Not the Nautilus, sorry. This is the other team. That's the Alistair who's willing to trade a flash. And then you're just stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you're like, okay, well, teleport for me, Valiant. I need you here. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Oh, you already teleport. Okay, you're dead now.
The curse that you can no longer cancel teleports is by the time you realize you're going to die when you get in there, you have enough time to write your will. You'll get your eulogy sung out to you in the voice comms by the rest of your teammates. There was no way Valiant entered that fight yes, this is fantastic. This is what I want. And I feel like that's the story of Valiant's life in this game. I mean, we talked about him coming into this, a more dominant top half top laner coming out, picks the Renekton into the Shen. We expect great things out of this. And the early game wasn't disastrous. He managed to get out of a bit of a cheeky gank using his flash, but then it just felt like he just got bullied after that. He got towered over at one point to go 0-3 on the Renekton threat. So like, is this just typical of Valiant, or is this more Raccoons being like, hey, Valiant, no, sit down, you're not allowed to play League of Legends?
Yeah, I think Valiant just had a bit of a rough game. Graves did focus quite a bit up top side. So the thing is, I think Valiant is fairly new to the competitive scene. So he will learn in time. The more dominance he shows in a lane, the more focus that he will get. So he has to kind of like learn this kind of sweet spot where he can punish his laners, but also not get caught. So that's kind of the important thing. He did manage to make that nice flash out at about 5-minute 30 mark, as you were mentioning with the gank from the Graves and the Shen being in top as well. But then like he had also teleported into lane and then had to flash. So then they just turned and then went for his tower, got some plates, and ultimately he was punished for that. But it was good that he didn't go down.
And I suppose encompassing the look at how both these teams looked. Raccoons, they did end up with the loss here. But Tika, what other Raccoons do you see that maybe looked really good out of them? What stood out as a shining light, saying, "Hey, yes, they may have lost this game, but what stood out to you as, yes, this team still has potential to take down other top teams in their group"?
Their potential to neutralize a lane. So when I talk about neutralizing a lane, I'm looking at Shardblade because he's on the Shen, and when we think about Shen, we're like, all right, so that's the entire concept of top lane now, making sure that no one's going to be able to do anything up here. And if you want to do something, if you do want to do something against the Shen, you can't. You have to build AP. maybe bring a Soraka top and say, hey, there's no way you're coming anywhere close to me, but also I'm not going to be doing any damage. It neutralizes a lane anyway. So Shen, that's the reason why he's a meta pick. And honestly, I would have loved to see a Galio in this game because of the amount of AP damage that this team is doing. They have Sejuani, Akali, Ziggs, and a Nautilus. All four of them do AP damage. How do you neutralize that? Bring in a Galio.
Instead, we did get to see the Victor being pulled out in the middle lane instead, and wasn't the best performance you could have out of a Victor there. I think partly because when you spend every minute in lane being paranoid, okay, where is that goddamn Nautilus, and why is my flash not up yet? Like, it can be a little bit paranoid as they're coming out there, even if Nocturne's not in the game itself. And I suppose the final real recap of this one threat, Weekend Warriors, we talked about it during the game itself, arguably are looking just straight up stronger than what they were in Split 1. If you were commanding the enemy team and you're like, okay, I have to prepare, Weekend Warriors are up next, I have to take them down, who is the weak link you think on the Weekend Warriors that you can exploit?
The weak link?
Yes, who is the weak link on this lineup here?
So it's hard to really say. So Valiant can easily solo kill a laner if he does actually put up a bit of a fight in lane. But then if you focus Valiant, and that's their game plan to do that, Jungle Man will just camp bot side. Mad Maximo, Glad Minimo, they will take over that bot lane. They will secure those dragons. And then they'll probably just lane swap and then just take over like anything that jungler's chucked at them. I'd say if you want to exploit a weak link in Weekend Warriors, you would have to get Trike on a champion that he's not comfortable with and then exploit his lane weakness by just ganking him over and over again. But then you got to be careful of Mad Minimo roaming to the mid lane and like collapsing on you. Like, it's hard to really say. We'll find out more information on this team as the weeks come by.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular mid lane, it was a bit hard for the Victor, falling 4,000 gold behind by the end of that game there. Of course, as you guys can probably wonder, there are a lot of games that are not happening on stream, unfortunately. There just aren't enough of us. We can't clone ourselves yet, sadly enough. So, God, no one would want to see that, actually. So just an update. On the other games, 95X Black did take the win over the weak Night Warriors down in Group C. Much as I hate to say this towards Weekend Warriors, but is anyone really surprised by this shift in result? One of the strongest teams taking a victory here. They're running Lethality Shen top. Shen has a surrendered Dirk from that game. Maximize, what are you doing? You're disgusting.
Dominating.
that disgusts me. I just saw a Shen with a serrated Dirk, and I don't think I want to look at the rest of these games here. Dissidents.
Sudden impact with serrated. Ooh, damage.
Down in Group D, Dissidents did take the victory over Kraken Pink. UTS up in Group A did take down the Dark Horses, maybe not living up to their reputation, sadly. Ardour, I hate to be the one to bear of bad news here, did in fact fall to Kraken Black in their first game there. We'll see how they can bounce back in, of course, the third game of the night when we see them on stream. The Stormwolves took down 95X White. That is phenomenal. And I'm seeing a Cassidon in there as well for the likes of the Stormwolves. So very, very interesting to see. And the final one before we wrap up the round one from our end is, of course, Incel Gang versus up against their opponents, QUT. Unfortunately, QUT. Oh, I think that's Mutts Unleashed. Because it says QUT, but that doesn't seem right. Is unfortunately, Incel Gang did take the win. Now, guys, there is a 5-minute break before we dive into our second game of the series. And again, this is arguably the most important game that we'll be running tonight. The top 2-seeded teams on the power rankings will be butting heads. Our former champions, Incel Gang, have to take down the OCS-powered lineup of 95X Black. Who will win the solo lanes? Who will win the lane? And who will win the game, guys? Don't go anywhere. We're right around the corner.
All right, it is our second game, and I think Midnight said it pretty damn well. This is an absolutely huge game. Incel Gang versus 95x Black. I'm Fetch, this is Mendrix, you're watching the Summoners Invitational Circuit. It is a big one, and the picks are already in.
What I love about this is there's actually going to be basically the benchmark going forward for what we can expect to be what will be the best teams. As we've discussed before, basically when we look at it, Incel Gang did win in the previous season. They're basically amazing in terms of what they can do. As you can see, Blue, Rookie, QQ have been fantastic, basically dominating in those early stages of the game. On the flip side, we do have, as they discussed, 4 OCS players for 95X, which means they can definitely compete with those individual laners. And what's cool about this specific game is that these guys still have a bit of time there. The meta's a little bit changed in comparison from when Incel Game was really big in terms of what they were doing. But I really like how actually we've gone, you know what, 95X is the power play. The power play team that they put actually in that top, in that top side of things. That to me was just ridiculous. I kind of thought Incel Gang would still be able to win this out. These guys still relatively have a pretty good idea in terms of how they're going to play the game. So a bit of things happen there. Though I believe we have a little bit of a technical issue that we need to resolve.
Yeah, because it's a real esports broadcast, so we have real technical issues. That's always my judgment. Like, if I'm doing a tournament and it's not, like, got at least one, like, remake or something like that, I'm always like, I don't know about this. But, you know, it's like a legitimate, we're playing by the rules, we're not reading anything, because we've had technical issues. Sorry, I'm memeing about that one. But yeah, we are going to have a quick remake of Lobby. I'd imagine that'll only take a second or so.
Well, I mean, we can get back into it, I guess. The idea here is that really with these teams now, I can't really say what's going to be the specific strategy that you need to shut down. Both of them, basically, they don't really have any major weak points that we can really discuss going into this game. I believe, Self-Taught and Into the Night, beforehand, they always change their names, which is the annoying part about this. Beforehand, it was Yanu and Forward. I'm pretty sure it's still them. If not, you guys can correct me, go ahead, I don't mind. But basically, with this going forward, that Incel Gang have basically been this force that no one can really stop. They've been this high benchmark, and they do like to play around a little bit, really. They do like to sort of just measure out how everyone's actually playing. Basically, do that whole Goku versus his opponent. I'm going to start off being weak, and then slowly edge myself up to the point that final battle engages into it, which point I'll go Super Saiyan Blue, go into that next form afterwards, where I'm just unstoppable, which is Ultra Instinct, and go crazy. And at this point, basically, we're looking at 95X. They seem to be the Jira in this scenario.
Damn, I've just been blown away by that Dragon Ball knowledge. This is good. Sorry, you caught me off guard with that one. I was just like, oh my god. But yeah, I mean, well, we kind of we heard a bit. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Getting fighting game a little bit. It's quite good. But yeah, I mean, we heard the devs talk about it a little bit. It's going to be strong players just going head to head, a big all-out brawl, which is like on League of Legends.
I've been told it's not them. Actually, I'm watching you Twitch chat. Everyone just said, "Lol, it's not them." Okay, so it's not them. This is where things actually begin to change up a little bit, because that means that the team power that they had initially before has been sort of disrupted. Can these guys actually play well together? Is going to be the actual question that needs to be asked and answered here.
Yeah, we kind of, it's always a conversation at the beginning of a tournament, things like that, when the roster changes and things. Of course, this is our first day. This is the second game for these two teams, though. They already have played one, and with the teams kind of coming to fruition, kind of coming to completion, I guess is a better way of putting it. Got any insight on that one?
No, I've got nothing for you, mate.
Okay.
I'd love to say, like, right now that I know exactly what's going to happen, but the thing is that this is why it's such an explosive match. This is why everyone wants to see what's going to happen, because some of the questions that we need to have answered is specifically, can they play well as a team? How do these 4 OCS players that they actually do have on the side of 94X also mesh together? I imagine they'll probably be able to do it well. Typically, when they've been playing around in this competitive scene, they understand what their jobs need to be each way around, but it's those little things that you're starting to shave off that you see towards the end of a circuit that they start to fix up, where the edges were a bit rough, but this time around they've shaved it from side to side, and they've gone, okay, cool, now we can do the engages, now we can do those tower dives, now we can juggle the aggro, now we can actually make the chess plays that allow us to make 2-minute plays in the future, basically have that set up where we keep our opponents in the dark in terms of what's going to happen. That's when you start to see a team really begin to excel.
All right, I was thinking more in terms of like team comps and things like that, like the champions who've been
no.
locked in and things.
Even that's unknown from time to time, because especially even though they could play specifically meta, they might have something in the back of it. I've seen a number of times that we've got a Karthus and Soraka bot lane being played here. Like typically the bot lanes in OCE like to go a little bit off meta and make things happen. This Shen, for example, could even be in the jungle. Was probably going to be top lane because we see Maximize on it at that point in time. But we've seen Shen now start to make a resurgence, and these certain little things that have been changing is hitting a meta that's a little bit more volatile in terms of what's going to be actually big, especially when you do have these teams banning out ADC specifically or banning out these big power picks. You sort of go, okay, what do we have to go with next? I mean, Set's pretty standard. I mean, looking at the teams there, Set's standard, Syndra's pretty standard. Jhin at this moment in time, he's basically like, cool, I can put him in there. I would ideally like maybe an Ashe to be flown into this, seeing as Ashe is not there, but they do have enough engage already with the Nautilus. So I do like what has actually been put together by the Incel game in the scenario. On the flip side of things, when I look at 95X, they've got a very standard composition as well. Shen top, Olaf in the jungle, Orianna, who's basically going to have a ball delivery either in the Shen or the Olaf, whatever you decide it's going to be. Ezreal will be, of course, sitting back shooting that. And at the same time, you've got a ball delivery in the Thresh for the Orianna. Thresh has always just been one of those staple picks. I'd say it's going to be very explosive, probably looking at roam from the Thresh or the Nautilus to find plays in the mid lane, purely because these are very... I've talked about the idea of lane neutralization, but this is more control in terms of how they play. Syndra, it does have a lot more kill potential than the Orianna, but the big thing there is the fact that both of these guys will be immobile mages. That means you can take advantage of them via the Thresh or the Nautilus roams.
All right, well, the next step is just seeing how they play it, whether they do what we expect. I mean, we know it's going to be a fight. We know it's going to be a bit of a brawl back and forth. So, next thing to do is see how it plays out. We will be taking a quick break, but when we come back, this game, this top of the ladder clash, potentially, two favorites at least, is going to be coming your way. We're back very shortly. All right, here we are, the match which the analyst desk were buzzing about, which I'm excited for as well. 95X Black up against Incel Gang. I'm Fetch, as we said before, it's Mandrix over. I don't know if I've been over this, but the game is started, underway, and looks like actually a big stack from 95X down his bottom side, standard spread from their opponents.
Yeah, I think they're actually concerned about the invaders. We've got the omnipresent vision where we can actually see, or the omnipotent vision where we can see that there isn't going to be any major engages here on that side from the iGang. iGang's basically going to be sitting back with a line of scrimmage to make sure nothing crazy happens. But basically, they do know that they're very aggressive. They can actually look for these fights, and so that's why they've just chosen to do the stack. Basically, say, you know what, you bring the fight to us, we'll be ready and waiting for you. Nothing is going to have come of it. They basically sat down, said there will be no early invade. They have opened themselves up to a late invade, but the big thing here is that no one's going to know what the jungle starts are going to be, and so everyone's just going to be speculating in the lanes in terms of what's going to happen, and going to be waiting for obviously what's going to be either someone coming late to lane, or on the flip side of things, not showing themselves a little bit earlier. But I think what they're trying to do is hide that on the side of 95X. As you can see, they're actually going to be letting the Olaf solo it. Oh,
Yeah,
they
this is
revealed it
interesting.
anyway.
Yeah, very interesting. There's the hook anyway traded back, hook for play. I mean, small damage advantages, but I feel like it's not too much at this point.
Okay, so here's the interesting part about what's happened here. Blue now will be walking in a little bit late. As you can see, there was a bit of a question mark ping going down and saying, where is he? What is he doing? That means it's going to choreograph that it is going to be a red side start for Autofile or for Viper. Viper's actually making a move on Rizza now.
Yeah, just immediately goes for the flash E, and it doesn't quite connect him. And they might still have enough damage. Rizzo just running away as fast as possible. Use that phase rush. He's going to get the blast cone. Not going to go over the wall. Jin's hunting it down, and yeah, that's an absolute guaranteed death there. I don't know. No, they haven't taken enough damage for it to be an execute or anything like that. Rizzo's just going to go down, just buying time right at the moment.
Yeah,
Actually,
pretty
Cinder
much.
as well.
Oh, maximize!
Oh, wow. Okay. Suddenly in the top lane.
Okay, that's to be expected. Silas does actually not have the best early game. He's typically is a little bit in terms of what he has. He's very using his mana quite a lot. We'll need to use that teleport early most of the time. As you can see, he's actually popped all of these potions already. Shen's got a very aggressive early game as well with that percentage health damage. They can basically chunk you out. So I can expect Blue to actually basically pop off around that level 6. So I've seen him die early on Silas and then absolutely turn it around level 6, level 7. That's when Silas really does hit his stride and he's able to do what he needs to do. Blue's playing very intelligently, but Viper's just continuing the ganks.
Yeah, here's a part 2. The Ezreal E, of course, going to provide a little bit of stability. A little bit of immunity. Fruitcake going to go for the hook back in. Here's Olaf trying to get some work done. The flash forward from Self-Taught does manage to make some work happen. Right now, Olaf trying to get those axes down, has the level advantage, and it's Ezreal who gets the kill. Double buff for an Ezreal. That's a bit scary.
Now, this is the problem when you do decide to make these early ganks happen against a Thresh and an Ezreal. They're relatively hard to get on. Fruitcake, of course, used a flash, and then there was a follow-up flash by Into the Night to make sure he was locked down. But the big advantage with the Olaf, looking at WAF here, WAF was able to actually make a move down, get to level 3, which means, realistically, in this 3v3, there is no chance that iGang are able to win it. He was able to be there directly afterwards. They overextended too far because, once I said again, Thresh, Ezreal, extremely hard to gank. You do need to basically push the ladder a little bit further than you would like to make something happen, and they end up falling down because of it.
Also, another point, which is kind of not fully related, but I also didn't know how to take off that point any further. Blue and Rookie had frame-perfect synchronized teleports, and if that isn't team synergy, I don't know what is. Maximize goes in for a small trade, doesn't hit the taunt, so that's going to be the end of it. But no, your point was good, explaining the breakdown of the fight and things like that. But
I do what I can.
yeah, but I had to hit that, right? That was important. All right.
I mean, look, it's important to you, and that's what matters. As you can see here, though, Blue is able to take that trade into Maximize purely because he's got such a large minion wave. Normally, though, you wouldn't actually want to trade into a Shen this early.
And I mean, there's also, to be fair, Viper is just hanging out on the wood. You're kind of looking for possibly some of the dives.
Ooh, cool.
On the tower. Blue, that's a bit risky. Pulls back in, but that was not ideal.
Look, Blue loves to be aggressive, and this is those rare situations where it really does come back to bite him in the behind. I don't know what's going on here. Vibe
might be able to get a W off here. Doesn't quite have the damage with the shield. I like the idea, though.
I like the idea. I think Maximize was playing with a bit of fire there. If Vibe actually played that a little bit better, he would have actually been able to get the kill. So Maximize gets away with his life for the time being. That is a hook land. I'm not sure they can actually go into this. They are.
Yeah, I mean, they're going for the aggression. Fruitcake already taken a huge trade there. Ezra trying to drop a bit of damage back, but that's it, really.
Yeah, they basically thought, you know what, these both of these Aftershock supports aren't really taking damage, so we can't take any major advantage out of it, and so they are going to just basically whack their whack their sticks a couple of times and say, all right, let's back away, wait for the next opportunity that we can whack these sticks, which will be on the Aftershock, which will be the exact same scenario, unless, of course, the junglers are there to tip a scale. In this mid lane, as we can see here, Rookie's actually being very, is actually winning out against Urainian. That's to be expected. There is a little bit of push early, a little bit of pushing power and pressure from the Syndra. And Rizza, of course, is running out of mana. Also taking into account, Rizza did die early, which gave Rookie QQ a bit of advantage. And he's level 6, so Rizza, back away, back away.
Yeah, the rest of blue team was all huddled down in this jungle. They took the dragon, so that's first Ocean Drake opened up nice and early as well for 95X.
Yeah, this Viper's really looking to find ganks and make something happen here. Let's just be bonding with Storm. Viper's coming in here now, but he's unable to use the combination. Like, there's a shockwave.
That was pretty big. I mean, Viper does have the ability to pop the W and get that huge shield back. Rookie still has the ultimate available. Rizza still finds the kill, and now it's all after. You really want to dive this? I mean, they did juke out the stun. There is the Stand United from Shen, just going to provide the support. The hook just goes and hit onto the Ezreals that jump straight down the bottom lane, but into the Knight's just going for this. Going very aggressive right at the moment. Managed to hook it stun onto the Thresh, but I don't know if this is ideal. Ezreal gets that kill, has also the Conqueror active, so no trades back from Jhin.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate there for Into the Night just to miss out on that hook. He was basically put in an awkward position. It was very well played out by Fruitcake and, of course, Ezreal to sit back and actually make something happen and get his little few attacks off. And what makes it really good is their patience and how they decided to do that. They realized that Into the Night wasn't able to actually find the initial effects of his Aftershock because he wasn't able to land a stun or slow or anything of that type, or in conjunction with it, they were able to get some extra free damage off when he finally was able to do so. He was already taken down low enough for the Ignite to really do some decent damage, and that was basically it from there. It was all comes down to the fact that he missed and used most of his abilities, didn't really land them, and then the discipline coming across from the bot lane from 95X led them to get the kill. So really good start for the bot lane here at the moment.
Yeah, well, especially with the Ezreal being in the in the 2-0. I mean, not much in the way. We'll actually have a little bit of wave pushing in.
Yep.
And of course, we have a gentle little pause.
Yeah, I think everyone just needs to sort of like take, like, the action's been relatively explosive early, so everyone does need to look back and just take a chill pill before we get into it. In terms of as this game goes later, there is a lot of late game insurance on the side of Incel Gang. Looking specifically at Blue and, of course, Self-Taught, they are late game monsters. Shen is pretty good game, don't get me wrong, at protecting most of these members here. Now, I actually just want to have a quick little pause. I mean, we have to pause again anyway. Because really at the moment, whenever these pauses happen, it does actually mess up our synchronization. I think we're probably going to need to resync again as well. So I was wondering, do you want to call for a pause there, Fetch?
I was just going to do that. Wanted to let you finish your point just quickly, but yeah, sounds good.
No
All
worries.
right.
Beautiful.
We'll throw to a quick break. We'll be back when these little pauses are done. All right, welcome back. We are back in the game. A short pause, which is a good pause. Here we are actually straight away, the level 6 Olaf. And Set's just kind of like, yeah, I know what's coming here. And a point we were just about to talk about just before the pause was actually the swap up to the top lane, which we're seeing now.
Yeah, pretty standard. I mean, there's no dragon down on the bot side there. You might as well begin to get some pressure here. Basically be quick to the tempo. So 95X basically doing what they need to do. This allows them to set up for the Rift Herald. Because that's what these rotations are all about. Basically putting members across some textbook plays across the board here, especially showing them how high level they really are. Basically now with this Olaf as well, he's hit that break-even point or that break point where he's just too strong and maximize. I don't think he wants to be taking any of those fights anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, didn't have the vision of the river or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, he's still got out of life. He's all right. He's healthy, somewhat.
I mean, he's pretty good. He's a Shen. That's the best part about it. Shen, basically, in most cases, will survive it out. Blue's actually relatively in trouble here as well. He's not the tankiest member, so if they do manage to actually land and engage onto him, they can kill him on the tower. So he definitely does need to pick up one of the ultimates here to make something happen. I mean, really, you do have a smorgasbord with these two. You can choose to take the Ezreal ultimate to have that little bit of extra damage to basically clean up a botch dive. At the same time, there's a shockwave. Rizza.
Yeah, Rizza's just fighting off in the mid lane, doing some decent damage. Managed to get more out than Rookie did, but both have potions left available to them, so both should be able to survive for a little bit longer. What was that? Just a skirmish trade? Like, what do you make of that? Because I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, I think he thought he could do a bit more of it, and then didn't realize that we're not that far into the game that shockwaves really do have a lot of bite to their punch. So basically, we're just making a little bit of damage out of it. Again, looking at this here, I'm surprised that they haven't actually managed to find a fight onto Blue. So Blue's been playing this pretty damn well. As you can see here, they're basically saying, you know, we'll just force you off every single chance that we get, basically, and just look to push these towers down as fast as possible.
But here comes Olaf. There's the ultimate as well. Stand United being dropped. The box, everything. Blue is not very long for this world, and now they've got 4 players up in the top lane. Of course, Olaf did take the Rift Herald before. I mean, they've got this tower down. They're fine. They don't need to drop that just yet. But pretty clean dive.
Super clean dive. They really even didn't need the Olaf, in my opinion. I think they had everything there. Basically, with Maximize, that was more than enough to really finish that off. As you can see, Maximize coming in is safe now from the 3-man gank that ends up being the response. And that also means he gets the local gold on that top side. So yes, they are trading what would be turrets here in this scenario, but looks like they're not even trading the turret here. That's the worst part about this. But they are really maximizing the amount of gold that they're getting around the whole team. And now they're just pushing this game further and further ahead with the tempo. They basically have control of the entire thing. They're well and truly in the driver's seat.
It absolutely feels like it. Of course, only lane, they're losing out on those plates in the bottom lane.
Oof.
Oh, the insect from Shelly. She's so good. She is the MVP. Orianna and Thresh being pulled in by the face breaker, but you know, I don't think you're going to get much back with a solo set who's 0-3.
Pretty much. I think at that point there, Rookie should have just backed off immediately. He shouldn't have tried to actually be behind. I mean, he was trying to be behind Shelly to immediately kill the eye to then stop further damage from going down, so I can understand the reasoning, but by not respecting the fact that there could be a very quick engage purely off the Thresh, and of course off the Olaf or the Orianna using the Shockwave, I mean, you're just basically going to die, and that's exactly what happened. So, again, basically giving up a little bits and pieces that they shouldn't be, and that's why this 21 gold lead is starting to, well, not 21, it's really a 4k gold lead is starting to generate now for 95X, and I'm starting to feel worried for, you know, for iGang. They have to find something back. They need to have a brief respite, because even though they do have late game insurance, it's the exact same scenario as well for 95X. The Ezreal is going to be huge. He's going to be one of the best ADCs in the game. Orianna, the shockwaves can never be counted out, whether you're ahead or behind. So just being ahead is gravy at this point for the Orianna. It's an uphill battle, definitely.
Yeah, hugely so. Look, the main thing I'm interested in, they're on topic of ultimates. I mean, Orianna's going in, Set's in the back pocket as well, but Riz is probably going to get too active with that one. Has spotted him out in that little ward, so she kind of knows what's going on. Still helps to burn that early. But I want this game to go on long enough. There's a taunt up down in the bottom lane. I don't expect that to be too much. Actually, Blue's going for it. Has plenty of regeneration tools, I suppose, so not too much risk at that point. But I want this game to at least keep going until we see a full AP hijacked box. Shen's ult. Oh, sorry,
Well,
Thresh ult.
I'd love to see
'Cause
it
I like
too,
that.
but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I mean, we're looking at Blue right now. He really is just being bullied out. As you can see, Maximize actually opted in to not go for the Bramble Vest, actually opting into the Executioner's Calling, a very aggressive play from a Shen who typically likes to get tankier instead of actually going for damage. So he's saying right now that I'm actually better than you, Blue. Really, it's a very disrespectful pickup from a Shen of all things, and Blue won't be able to trade off the back of this. Part of the reason is that he's able to come back with his W. His W gives him a ridiculous amount of HP back off every single trade, and with that Executioner's Calling, it's being cut in half.
I honestly, that was a really good call out with the Executioner's Calling, because I just assumed it was the Bramble Vest. You know, I saw the Grievous Wounds being applied and was like, oh yeah, Bramble Vest rush on Shen. That makes sense. You're right. Maximize just has absolutely no time for Blue's shenanigans, which is really cool. I like that. Big indexing of players from our blue team from 95X Black.
Rookie.
Up in the top lane, yeah, it's Rookie who's going to be the one in awkward position. Actually managed to dodge out a great 3-stack stun to get away, and the flash past the death sentence gets out very cleanly. I mean, had to burn a flash, but at the end of the day, still survived.
You can really see what allowed that play to happen. They already got 2 pink wards up on that top side, so basically encroaching now into Incel Gang's territory, which is going to make it hard for them to actually even make those rooms around. Oh, tried to throw the needle, what Self-Top did back off intelligent at that point. But the thing here is that they're just basically using excess pressure now. That's essentially what that play was. They had already pushed up there. Look at that damage. Rookie might get him.
That one shot could be happening, but, you know, the Merc Treads. The Merc Tread's
Yep.
going to keep the Orianna alive. She's got the E as well. Chucked in the ultimate just for good measure. But
Yeah, that shield also did pop up at the last second, so Rizzo was able to negate most of that damage, or negate most of that damage that was kind of made of Rookie. Rookie needed to actually set up a few more balls there in order to actually really pile that damage in at that point. So not enough setup, unfortunately, which means the ultimate wasn't quite there. And Rizzo did have a quick return shockwave to sort of like stop any real attacks from happening. I do want to just go back to that idea that we were discussing before, which was them basically just using excess pressure. They had that top lane completely pushed up. They had every other lane under control. They have all this control on that top side of the jungle. They basically said, you know what, we've got no dragon, we've got no rift trail, we can't do anything, but hey, that seems to be Rookie in a position that we can possibly gank. Let's make it happen. Rookie was relatively safe there, basically still hugging the turret, but still had to force a flash. So right now, 95X is making value out of everything.
And on the topic of 95X making value out of things, I really like the fact that Fruitcake, this is maybe not the best example of it, but I like the fact that Fruitcake is going for these weird predictions on the hooks, like predicting dashes, predicting huge backsteps, getting ready for that clippable moment. Like, hey, you're 4.1k up at the moment. Like, why not get a little bit flashy? It's not probably the kind of like pressure play you were talking about before, but it I guess it does kind of apply some mental pressure, even that being a little bit different.
It's what you would expect, right? It's that thing that typically now that they go, okay, cool, does Into the Night take the left side? I'm not sure if that's if he's left favored or if he's right favored. You kind of need to like really change up which way you turn, because what you do find is there's a pattern starts to form of players. They either begin to favor the left side or they begin to favor the right side, and if Fruitcake can recognize that, you can see some pretty insane predictions. I mean, basically channeling Mad Life in his prime.
Yeah, and also, like, yeah, with the Mad Life node, also predicting not just the sidesteps. This is a bit of a dangerous situation for Blue. Has to make sure to keep himself alive. Has the Conqueror. Some of the healing is being mitigated. The ultimate from Syndra comes in. Good stun. Maximize not fully healthy. Now he's going to have this turned on as there are 2 more players marching down the river. Syndra is able to pick it up, and that's just in time for the dragons to spawn. Meanwhile, 95X trying to trade something back in terms of that mid lane tower, which to be fair is very low.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to get that for free. Not really for free, I guess it was going to be off the death of Maximize and obviously losing the dragon here. I do like the use of actually dropping the Rift Herald as well. That's going to guarantee at least 2 towers without any major response here. So they really are making the best of a bad situation, or really making lemonade out of lemons. As long as they don't get caught here, that would be the big thing. Oh my god, they don't care. They're going for it.
And Rookie GG managed to run past everything. Is getting the Blast Cone away. Into the Night, still in awkward position. Has the Dredge line as well. The flash forward. The flash acts as a great engage. Here comes the Shen over the top. Vibe has to dodge out this taunt. Doesn't quite manage it. CC locked. And Rizzo does manage to get the kill as well. Nautilus during the classic. I'm going to try and save you ultimate, but still drops 1 player.
Yeah, it didn't really look like that 95X was in position to make something happen, but the Shen was respawning, which means they can just basically run in, force a fight off the back of that, and then use the Shen as the next re-engage afterwards. And you could tell that they really wanted to make that work. They even expelled the Flash for the Olaf there, or, Valwolf in this scenario, so Valwolf had to basically push that out in order to make it work. But really, the damage is done in terms of what they wanted to do. They got the 2 towers, they got the kill, they made that trade-off for the Dragon worth it. Maximize as well did miss out just barely on Blue's kill, so you can either say that was really well played by Blue to actually force Maximize into a position where he would die, or you can even say it was unlucky. Either way works.
Yeah, I mean, you always got to favor calculated over unluck, right? Like that's it. That's the better narrative, I reckon. But at the end of the day, it did look like Blue got a little bit close to going down in that one. So I agree. There's only so much you can actually big brain in this play. Seems like we've got kind of bit of break, bit of relaxing downtime right at the moment. Of course, still that 5k gold lead for our blue team, 95x black, over red team Incel gang. Just like saying their names to remind myself as much as anything. I'm not the best memory. But maybe a bit of a kind of hold in the mid lane while we wait for more of those objectives to spawn.
Yeah, the lull's pretty typical. Again, Baron's not going to be up for the next, minute and a half. Dragon is definitely not going to be there anytime soon as well. So right now we are just waiting on objectives to actually force these teams together while they just continue to fling waves at each other. As well as the fact that because they managed to get that shutdown onto Maximize, that has really actually made 95X think for a second, oh wait, we can bleed in the scenario. We do have to watch out for what we do. Yes, we do have that lead, but we can still throw it away, especially if that gold does go onto some targets that really can make use of it. Looking specifically at Rookie here, Rookie can definitely blow up any member on their team once he does get those initial items around that 4 item to 5 item mark.
And I actually also want to mention the fact that this Ezreal has a lead, which is maybe a little bit deceptive. He right now is sitting at over 1,000 gold, 1,200 gold over self-taught. Like, we're kind of talking about how, like, the entire team's strong, all those kind of things. Actually, Threshold just goes wide onto blue. So no highlight reel there for Fruitcake. But yeah, Ezreal is so strong right at the moment in terms of lead over Jhin. Has 2 items completed, and I'm sure the Orianna will get that last item completed as well as Rookie shoves down that tower. That'll be likely before any of those big contested objectives spawn. But that's a strong boy. That's a strong boy in the bot lane.
Yeah, it is a massive power spike. This is where the Ezreal really does start to come online. Probably does want to finish off the Death's Dance before everything comes into it. But there is the Olaf. He's jumping in.
He is going very far in, of course. Does have the CC immunity, so Blue won't be able to use as many of those chain combo tricks. But, I mean, it applied threat, I guess. It allowed Shen to take the bot lane tower. I don't know.
Too sure, to be honest. Like, Valwolf obviously saw an opportunity he thought he could make happen. He's got a lot of damage. He's also very accelerated. We're looking at, 141 to 94. That Black Cleaver is completed. If he does get on you, he will basically shred you down and then destroy you with true damage directly afterwards. So I can understand him making a play there, specifically also because it's very choreographed around the map where everyone is. As you can tell, Rookie QQ doesn't have TP. They do need to land actually the follow-up CC to actually stop him from doing anything afterwards. I'm a bit surprised that Into the Night didn't just go, you know what? Let me just drop down my Death Charge as a follow-up to sort of punish you for that, because there was an opportunity to do that there, but they kind of were just a bit too fearful that maybe there was actually going to be either the Shen ultimate or Orianna waiting in the flanks to make something happen. They just don't pull the trigger on that in the end, and looks like Fruitcake will find a hook. He's jumping in.
And is going in. He's got the box, throwing the lantern over the shoulder. I mean, there's no one else there just yet. Here's the Ezreal. Here is that strength. He gets hit immediately by the Nautilus ultimate. Does get pulled back into the team, but he's still alive. He's still kicking. And they managed to actually take out the set there. Blue is on the backside of the flank with the help of that Syndra. And this is a messy, weird fight, but it's kind of what we wanted to see. Here is the Ragnarok pop from Set. He's able to go straight in, but he's going to take a lot of damage. That doesn't provide all that much tankiness. Ezreal gets a kill on a slightly out of position Syndra, who maybe wasn't quite ready for that one, and now it's Self-Taught stepping up. 95X still have 4 players left, whereas their opponents, iGang, only have 3, and one of them, and none of them is the jungler, so Dragon for 95X.
Getting very close to salt point for them in that scenario. You could really say it all comes down to the fact they're just being proactive at this point. Everything that really is happening there is the idea that, yes, the hook has landed, they're ahead, and then basically just dropping their arsenal on the table. It's one of those scenarios like, well, right now my stick's bigger, so I'm just going to hit you hard with that stick. And Yeah, don't get me wrong, like, I have a pretty decent stick, but it's just not the same size right now, and when you decide to go into one of those battles, basically at that point you need to go, okay, fair enough. It really isn't a case of it matters who's actually swinging the stick.
Yeah, I kind of like the scrappy style of the fight and things like that. I was really worried when Thresh just jumps in by himself, like Fruitcake's just like hook. But you're right. At the end of the day, bigger stick diplomacy, is it?
Yep.
Which kind of works in. That kind of works the saying.
Diplomacy.
Not well. Well, it's bigger army diplomacy is the saying, right? Like
The idea of aggressive negotiations.
But the idea that like bigger army negotiations are like, I want to strike a deal with you, and I've got more guns, so therefore what I say goes, right? In this case, it's the same idea, but the bargaining chips are the dragons, and 95X have whatever they want at the moment. Actually, it's a Baron. Never mind.
They're going for it. It's going to be seen here, and this is one of the scenarios where you actually can find an opportunity to jump on them and make it work. You can see that Olaf did go down very low. That's actually not an issue. Typically he does, and then he just pops his Spell Vamp or his Lecture Lifesteal off his back ability. He then has his Berserker buffed up, and he basically just whacks at that level of HP the entire time and immediately goes back up to full. So he has no problems there to actually sit there and tanking it. It's just now that they have opted in to actually get some blue wards, that means that a Fast Light can come in, and they do keep them at bay before getting this Baron, because that Baron will be enough for them to clear this off. They've got excellent siege, looking specifically at the Ezreal and the Orianna, of course. And if Fruitcake manages to land a hook, that's all they need to go in, because Fruitcake can go in with the, I guess you could say, confidence, knowing that a Stand United shield will be at his back. And Olaf, of course, is just going to do Olaf things and run at whoever he can get his hands on.
Yeah. And I mean, he's shown that he's willing to, right? Like, that's the other thing. He's just like, all right, I'm going in now, 2-0. That's good enough for me. Got ultimate. But we're creeping ever closer to that magical point where we see a full AP Thresh ultimate coming out from blue. So you know what? My dream's still alive on that one. I still have expectations.
He's got 2 items. He's getting to a point it's starting to hurt. I mean, look, the thing is, Silas does have an amazing scaling proportion. The fact that his ultimate does begin to have a lower cooldown means he can actually do some crazy things where he starts a fight with one ultimate. If it ends up being extended, he's then able to steal another one, especially when he gets to that level 16 mark. So crazier things have happened. They are actually looking relatively safe as well, because they do definitely have the ability to continue wave clearing. Looking specifically at Self-Taught and Rookie QQ, they still have most of their, I guess you could say, those inner defenses still left, looking on the top and the bot side. So they can definitely hold out for another 10 minutes and basically take this to that supreme late game. The big advantages will, of course, be while they're holding onto it, they will lose out on the Dragon Soul. That's the big thing here. I mean, I'm not sure they can actually contest Dragon Soul. They can definitely contest Baron at this point. So that's something that needs to be in the back thought of 95X, where they can have a possible throw opportunity. Speaking of throw opportunities, though, none of those can happen if we do happen to move into a pause. So a little bit said and done there.
On the topic of throw opportunities, we're going to throw it over to a pause of our own, if I'm not much mistaken, and get back when the game's actually live, because this screen, pretty boring. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. All right, here we go. We're back in. Possibly a fight breaking out. No, just going to hold off for a second. There's the Silas recall. Pings on to Baron. Immediate action. Hello and welcome back. And yeah, straight back onto the Baron. There we go. No Ezreal just yet. Has picked up the Death Dance, though. These item breakpoints looking pretty good for 95x.
I really do like that ward placement. They can actually see that they're doing the Baron at the moment, but they're just opting to let them have it, which I think is a little bit of a missed opportunity to make them go for it. Here we go. There's the curtain call.
Yeah, only gets the first shot off. No executes just there. No much more damage done. 95x get the Baron.
Yeah, you can tell they were just trying to steal with the curtain call in the end. They're self-taught though, not that big, only 2 items. Still needs to be at that 4th item for it to be an effective steal, but this does mean that now that with this extra tempo that they've got in place, as you can see immediately there was a back done by 95x. The reason why is they want to spend that extra 300 gold they picked up, whether it be with elixirs or item completions, one of the two. I think a number of them have been completed here, and basically make their way back in time for this Infernal Drake.
Yep. And I actually don't know if the 4th auto attack if the 4th ult point from Jhin does actually count as an execute on the Baron. There was actually the dash burn as well from Blue. Both double Ragnaroks being popped. Blue managed to get out for now, but into the Knight is going to be the next target. Rookie coming in the backside, is able to stun too. Nice hook onto Blue. Meanwhile, the big showstopper being dropped straight into the fight. We've got action just about everywhere. Ezreal picks up Blue. Chase down from Maximize to get the taunt. Solid chunk of kills. In fact, 4 in a row. Teleport to the mid lane. They're just going straight for the end.
That stick is just too damn big. You can tell exactly what they wanted to do on the side of Incel game. They wanted to actually get in there, force it, basically get at least some tempo off the fact that they needed to back. It really wasn't able to actually get enough control around that pit to keep them in the dark, and they just said, you know what, we'll just jump in there, force the fight in the end there, and that's going to be a nice, easy, clean finish coming across here from 95x, and they've shown us here that there is a new king on campus in the Summoners Invitational Circuit.
Yeah, that's it. Reminder to everyone, because even considering how good 95x look, their opponents are the reigning champions of sorts. I think we can say that, right? The reigning champions, previous winners. That's a good way to say it.
I'll rate that. I'd go with that.
Yeah, all right. So that's it. There we are. Looked pretty good though. Looked pretty good from them. I don't know. That looked solid. That just looked solid from 95x. They keep up plays like this, especially against top teams. Damn, right?
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of it does come down to maybe Viber really didn't get to actually do what Viber would have liked. I really like the early game tempo that he was forcing. Basically, red buff into gank, down to the bot lane, force another gank, basically make those moves, or basically Blue into that second gank. But the problem was that by doing that, you do let the Olaf actually go for that quick farm. Basically, they were able to turn that tempo around immediately when they were overextended to try and get the Ezreal. And from that point onwards, you really did just see Olaf completely go nuts. And with that farming, and Viber was just too far behind to actually make any of his, again, high tempo ganks work directly afterwards. And eventually, they was able to take control of the game, take control of the objectives, and everything just overflowed directly into the rest of the team, really. I mean, already Ezreal was accelerated because of that fantastic return counter gank afterwards. Maximize was just an absolute beast against Blue from start to finish. I mean, look, 2-1-6 against 0-3-2, and then from there they were able just to play their game. They had all the tempo, they made the plays they wanted to make. Everything was about basically an engage followed by a Shen ultimate directly afterwards, and they were just easily able to pick up all the objectives.
All right, well, I think you're right. Huge credit to huge credit to exactly who you said. I kind of like the Ezreal. I think that was my favorite AD carry bias. But for more information, for more of the smart big brain analysis, I'm gonna pass it over to Midnight and the Big Brain Buddies, as they are now called. I'm sure we'll be back actually on the desk later on in the afternoon. But now the real smart desk. Catch you guys soon.
Thank you very much for the cast, guys, and welcome to the Big Brain Analysis boys here over at the desk. Of course, I am still Midnight, joined by Tico and Threat to break down what was a unique game. I think it would be fair to say not the way we thought the game was going to go. Coming into this, two of some of our strongest teams mechanically, but when it came to their teamwork and working as a 5-man unit, we did see some quite, I think Threat is fair to say, some glaring weaknesses as both teams as a whole unit.
Yeah, so it was actually a fairly interesting game if you look at it from a whole approach. So there was a lot of chaotic fighting. as everyone could really notice, especially in this early game. In the early game, it was very back and forth. It could have went any way possible. Like, could have went to anyone. 95X Black actually coming out on top. Incel Gang falling behind. Now, we don't really see that too often coming out of Incel Gang, but this game we did, and they didn't show the strongest form.
I think, Tico, the faltering out of the side of Incel Gang, I think there's two real points we can look at there. We're like, okay, the early game, which is what they're most known for 9 times out of 10, just didn't go their way. And I think the first one would be Vibe falling quite far behind on the set after what looked like a fantastic gank. And then the blue effect, as we like to nickname it over here, it didn't happen. Like, there was just nothing out of him.
Yeah, no, they weren't able to get a snowball off the gang, and we saw that Olaf was able to get a huge lead. At one point, he had double the amount of CS, and that was early on. But that did give the opportunity for 95X Black to get that lead and sort of keep it there for a little while. Yeah, the fights got a little bit scrappy, and it wasn't going anywhere, but it sort of worked to 95X's style, where they could keep it laid back a little bit, play as if there wasn't too much of a threat in terms of team fight, because if you're ahead, you don't necessarily have to focus on the entire micro team fight, as we know that their weakness is around so far.
And of course, looking at this with two powerhouses in terms of mechanics, the team coordination looked very worrying. I mean, we did get to see in Twitch chat at some point someone asking, why am I watching a solo queue game? And it's something that we hope to see improve out of these teams later down the track. Of course, it is a very fast 2-week round robin, so they've got one more game later. Both of these teams have one more game later tonight, as well as 3 more games next week before finals will be kicking off here. Threat, of course, you help manage orgs. If you had to look at these teams and say, okay, here's one thing you have to work on as a 5-man unit, what are you going to throw the book at? If you're throwing the book at, I'll let you throw the book at 95X.
95X?
Yeah, you're throwing the book at 95X. What's one thing coming into next week's games and the game later tonight that they can do to improve their coordination as a 5-man unit?
Shut down 95X's coordination. Give them a blind spot, like find their blind spot and exploit it. Give them something that they don't know, perhaps like a cheese strat, something you could bring out that's very, very interesting that they're not used to. These are OCS players. They're used to playing the meta. They know what to expect out of certain champions. But if you throw them a curveball, they might not expect it. They might not know certain limitations of a certain champion's.
So what I'm hearing is Yasuo center bot lane. Just
No.
throw them out of sync.
No. No.
No?
Possibly.
Oh,
No, how about we go like old school?
Old school?
How-
What
old
old school
school.
cheese are you bringing out, Tico? What is it? What do we got?
Yeah, Yasuo Malphite.
Oh, God, you're disgusting.
Yes.
And this is someone who plays AP Malphite telling you that you're disgusting.
Yeah,
Shame on you, Tico.
gotta do it. Or I mean, you can go new. We can go with the Sona Lux.
Oh, okay. No, enough. Shush, hush. That's disgusting. No one wants to see Senna Lux or Sona Lux or anything like that anymore. What we will get to see, thankfully, is our third and final game of the first week of the Invitational. That is going to be Ardour facing up against MCom Gap. Now, this will be very exciting, Tico, because, of course, the two of you, as I said before, you're both part of each community. Tico, you had some lack of confidence in your team, or your boys. We'll see if
Okay,
call them out in the general chat, by the way. Sorry.
I get it. I get it, Midnight.
Love you
Fine.
too, buddy. Coming in as guys, and a quick update before we do go to a break and our third and final game of the match. The Weekend Warriors in Group A were not able to take down UTS. They did fall, with Valiant taking a hell of a beating in that particular series there. MCom Gap was able to take their victory over the likes of Kraken Black over in, which group is that one? That's Group B? Yeah, I think that's Group B. Ardour was able to take down Fake, also in Group B there. Dissidents took down Thunderdogs. I think someone's changed the team name. Don't know who the Thunderdogs are. They betrayed us. Interesting.
Would be
week-
the Stormwolves. Come on,
That would be the
Thunderdogs.
Stormwolves. Oh, of course, Thunderdogs, Stormwolves. You're right. I didn't even think about that.
Talking about big brain casters.
Yeah, I
and
am.
we
I
got
am the small
Midnight over
brain,
here.
and you are the big brain. We also going to see Mutts Unleashed do take down the Weeknight Warriors down over in Group C. So good to see the Mutts being able to put on a bit of a fight down there. 95X White were able to take the victory over Kraken Pink. I assume that's what the large W means. Dark Horse take down the Urainian Raccoons. So the Dark Horses may be putting a bit of a fight up over in the likes of Group A. And of course, the game that we just witnessed is 95X Black taking the victory over the likes of Incel Gang. Now, guys, don't go anywhere. Our third and final game is right around the corner.
Walking on ice, paper thin, skating on the surface of what might have been. Do you wanna be set free? Voices in the sound of the cracks are singing to me. Do you wanna be set free? If you come back looking for me, keep your eyes off the ground. Let me hear to take off for a drive. If you come back looking for me, if you come back looking for me, if you come back looking for me, I'll be walking on ice, paper thin, skating on the surface of what might have been. Do you wanna be set free? Voices in the sound of the cracks are singing to me. Do you wanna be set free?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 2020 Summoners Society Invitational Circuit Season 2. It is Quirky and Tico bringing you all the action for our last game of the day. And it's between Ardour versus MCom Esports, and we're already getting into the draft. Tico, we know you're involved with MCom here. Got some insider information. So what about this draft so far?
Well, I mean, now that I have the mic to talk about this all to myself and we don't have Threat to threaten me with his information, I can say that MCom are going to win these. But actually, no. So as I was saying before, like MCom, they have a split push-esque style composition. I mean, the players, they have a top laner who's really good at dueling. And so we've already gone through Pro Draft, but you guys will be able to see this eventually. I think they will show us. But yeah, so a lot of these first few bans are targeted bans. So the Evelyn is targeted against the jungler because, you know, was it a 60% win rate on Evelyn in ranked? Don't want to let that through.
Yeah, but you know, when we're going through that pro draft, you let out a sigh of sadness because Nectar was put on duty.
Yeah, I was a little bit sad because I mean, Nectar has shown to play some champions like Aatrox, Jax, Mordekaiser, Wukong, Renekton, and I would have loved to see these two top laners duking it out with Duelist because we got a Fiora on Chirp. I would have loved to see like another Duelist up top lane, maybe like a Jax, just for the fun of it.
And now, but going through the rest of the picks, we do have the Kindred Galio on the side of Ardour and the Olaf Akali getting picked from the side of MCom. And you're saying, when we're watching that pro draft, that this Akali not going to have the best time through her stint in lane.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, it's pretty obvious that a Galio is a hard counter to Akali. I mean, Akali does quite a bit of damage output, but when you put a mid laner Akali against a mid lane Galio, Galio is basically his entire kit is there to counter you. You're an assassin, he's a tank. You're an AP assassin, he's a tank that counters AP champions. So it is going to be a little bit rough. It doesn't matter whether Lysera builds full AP or whether he goes full tank. This is going to be a rough lane for Super Cute.
But we did finish up the draft there, so we do have the center Thresh combo down in the bot lane for Ardour. Well, we have the Ashley owner for MCom here. So, you know, we saw the Kate ban getting banned out in that first phase, and saw the center get picked up, and you were like, you know what, we shouldn't be surprised by this. And no, we weren't. But seeing that Thresh, you were pretty surprised by that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Senna was locked in first pick, so I was like, yeah, that's pretty standard. Senna gets locked in first, priority pick, does quite a bit of damage output. And so I was like, maybe that's going to be paired with a Thresh, right? So we go through the Ashe and Leona being picked next by MCom, and then I'm like, Thresh shouldn't be picked here because Thresh sort of doesn't want to hook in the Leona because that's basically a free Zenith Blade for Leona to get access to either Suho or Selfish. However, the thing is, Suho got access to his Thresh. Oh.
I mean, shades of last season's Invitational Circuit flashing back, you know, Suho was just an absolute beast on these hooking champions, you know, on the Nautilus, on the Thresh, and even his Leona was pretty outstanding. And, you know, it's great to see him back in this, but it might not be the best situation, as you were saying. So, you know, both sides have their weaknesses here, but just taking a quick look at these drafts, you know, bias aside, Tico, who do you reckon will have that edge going into this game?
Look, if I say MCom, I'll be biased. But if I say Ardour, then Razy's gonna have a go at me afterwards in the MCom Discord. So I'm kidding. Razy's an amazing person. Go say hi to him. I'm pretty sure he's in chat. But all biased aside, and please don't hate on me, Razy. I do think that Ardour have a better composition. But in saying that, I would assume Lysera to go AP Galio just because they do lack a little bit of AP damage. That means that they don't have consistent AP damage. That I mean, you could say Galio is consistent, but he has a combo, which means it won't be consistent. It might be a little bit scattered. So I do think that if Olaf is going to build any form of tank, it'll be mainly armor. So would Guapo probably be building armor just to make sure that he deals with the Senna and the Kindred.
Well, we'll have to see when we get into this game. So, folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this quick break. Share the stream around. Get ready for some hype League of Legends. And we'll be back after this quick break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the Rift for our final game of the night. It's Ardour on the blue side looking to go for that cheeky up jungle invade. While we have here on the red side, it's MCom going for that line of scrimmage.
Yeah, well, I mean, they really want to go for some cheeky stuff here. Chirp does spot out Suho. He has to be very careful. I am assuming he's got his finger on his F button because that is going to be a dangerous one if he gets flanked by dodge or lose.
I mean, that's kind of an outer moment that getting spotted while trying to go for that invade, and that does allow MCom to go for that early invade themselves, get that deep vision in, and try and keep an eye on where dodge is trying to go.
Well, I mean, if they wanted to pull that off, the best way they could have done that was to everyone go around the top side and then come in from the top into that bush so that they don't get spotted. Because really, I do believe that the only person that was spotted out there was Suho. So if Chirp hadn't seen Suho, they would have gone undetected. And that would have been a dangerous spot because Chirp wasn't as ready as he should have been.
Oh, he had luck on his side. We'll see if that luck holds out through his laning phase. As we do see both junglers starting on the bot side, looking to get their first clears out and ready. See where they can try and influence the map as they can. As do see Chirp already going for those vitals.
Well, I mean, Chirp really wants to get as much chip damage onto Nectar as possible because, I mean, Ornn, he doesn't do well up until that level 2, level 3. At that point, he's bought like an item. He should be fine going up into Chirp because he's got his resistances and he's got his sustain. And he can farm at a distance with his Q, so he should be relatively fine in just neutralizing the lane so that Chirp doesn't get the advantage.
Ooh, The lance does land onto Selfish there, but Guapo immediately has to flash out. Didn't exactly want to end up at the right place.
Very, very close call. But I mean, that little play showed how proficient Suho is on his thresh. He flashes away, and then he aims for the Ash. Chirp. Dangerous spot.
Yeah. Well, we're already starting to see the skirmish here. Already the bite going down. Dodge, he's trying to get away. Flips over Chirp. He's advanced to the lowest health. Red buff will take him down. As Dodge now turns his attention over to the Olaf, but Olaf, he just walks away. Ooh, Suho just missing that full length hook there.
They're flanked.
Super cute. Has to be careful with the TP flank coming back in. Oh, the two-man taunt is there. The Olaf goes down. Dodge already getting 2 kills, but Super Cute turns it around. May get a double trip. Will claim that kill. Flash over the wall by Lysair. And an even trade back in the kills for both teams.
Yeah, beautiful trade. Actually, that was a great TP coming out from Chirp to even the scoreline, bring it back from an 1-0 to a 2-2 between the two teams. And they've evened the scoreline again. They've evened the goal difference. And now it is back to Chirp with a call.
Ooh. So maybe he's thinking, he's like, you know what? I'm probably might not going to poke him out here. I'm just going to go for that farm game, get to that split pushing power. And then, once that cold's finished, be able to get, enough items there. But, oh, W does connect there. Flash forced out there onto the Ash. But looks like there's no follow-up there by the Ardour bot lane.
That was actually really well-timed flash, because as soon as that was about to proc, Suho was channeling his hook to make sure that ensured that hook was going to land. However, a beautiful flash from the Ash made sure that he was just out of distance to then disengage from the Ash. Taunt channel, not going to be able to get anything.
Oh, nice. CPQ is tries to go back in with the second proc of the E, but unable to get that. Meanwhile, Chirp does take that pillage damage up, and double buff also on Chirp here.
Yeah, well, he takes it off the enemy jungler, a dodge or lose, right after he gets a kill onto him. It's a revenge kill, basically. These buffs are now mine. You killed it. You killed me with them, and now I kill you without them, and then I take them. But yeah, they just... I'm a little surprised that we're not getting as much early priority around this dragon, but being a cloud may not be as important as a cloud. I mean, not a cloud, an ocean may not be as important as an ocean soul, but still does its work.
Yeah. No, it's not really about those early... Ooh, meanwhile, full combo off by Lysair there, trying to get the return damage onto Supercute, but Supercute does manage to just back away in time.
Yeah. So this is... It's a very chill game, apart from that one fight that was in top lane where everyone decided to show their face and make it a doof party. We are seeing the Olaf coming around. Suho ganking his own lane.
Do you like this movement here? Does get the flail. Lance does land back onto Suho. Now, the last embrace does land onto Guapo. A TP coming in from Supercute. Hook will connect, but it's going to be too little too late. And Supercute will take his second kill of the game.
That was a beautiful teleport coming out from Supercute. I mean, they overextended. Supercute was watching that bot lane that entire time. As soon as Suho committed for that double flay, that's when the teleport comes in from Supercute. There's no way that he's going to be able to disengage, especially with Guapo on top of him, because Leona is the queen of CC, right next to the king of CC being the Nautilus. So you do have to be really careful when you're engaging onto this bot lane when the mid laner has teleport, because that is a horrible time to go in.
Yeah. Well known fact, Nautilus and Leona, both Victorian. That's how much they are in their lockdown abilities. Yeah.
Okay, It took me a second to get that. I was like, wait, what? How are they Victorian? Oh, right, because Victoria's under lockdown. I got it. For those who didn't understand that joke either, I get you. I get you, fam.
Aha. I forgot to say it in draft when we saw all that CC coming in from Ardour. So I'm like, yeah, might as well use it now.
That was very well played by our good old friend Quirky. But Yeah, so a lot of lockdown. We do see another roam come out from this bot from the jungle. Does want to show his face, but they're going for an invade instead.
Yeah, Weiss there backing it up, but the Olaf is here. As well as Suho. They do get the taunt. Does land onto 2. Ragnarok getting popped already. Supergeek has to use Shuriken flips away. Lands Respite getting used. Call on the Force God will knock up Zero. But it's not going to be enough. Dodge will claim another kill. 3 and 1 on this Kindred at the moment. Guapo tries to go through the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Immediate cleanse away. Guapo trying to chase, but the Black Mist is there covering up. Selfish, Last Embrace, landing, does get the double root, but it's not going to be enough. The Flash Hook just missing there by Suho.
A lot of faith coming out from Suho. Not for that Flash Hook, but a lot of faith is in his AD carry to stay fine underneath his own turret. And because you got Guapo on a Leona, you have to be really careful, especially as a center who doesn't have too much mobility. Had to utilize that cleanse, still somehow held on to his flash though.
Ooh, damage not connecting enough to interrupt the back there from Guapo in that bot lane. But yeah, and that's another thing about Selfish. You know, we sort of looked over it, but last Summoners Society Invitational Circuit season, he was an absolute monster in that AD carry role. You saw great performances by him on the Misfortune and Callista throughout that season. Now we're seeing him on the center, and he seems to be doing all right here. Look, even dodging all the CC there from Guapo.
Wow, a lot of confidence. And, I mean, Suho just getting a beautiful shot throughout the minions. Unfortunately, there wasn't any champions to connect to, but, I mean, this bot lane is playing mechanically amazing. They're getting so many hits, and they're getting stuff they shouldn't, but they still are.
Yeah, I mean, that was the bot lane of Ardour last season. They seem to be proving again that they are one of the top bot laners, but Chirp, he needs to be careful. Ori blowing the flash. The Dread, Mountain Dread does not connect. Nice response, but the auto attack there from Dodge to finish it up.
A beautiful fight coming out from Nectar to set up that for a lane gang. Did force out the flash from Chirp. He thought he got out from that one, but unfortunately for him, got bad news for you, Chirp. There is so much lockdown potential from Nectar, as well as the
Well, speaking of lockdown, the Ragnarok is being used as well as the Call of the Forge God, but it's not going to be enough to save that Olaf.
Yeah, definitely looking a little bit rough for the side of MCom, but do have hope. I do have hope.
Well, looks like Ardour's bot lane has a bit of hope that it can get a kill. Unfortunately, not being able to get the damage that they can. Oh, but once again, action happening all over the map. A gank in the mid lane. Super cute using that Twilight Shroud, but the Mounting Dread again from Dodge. What is this Kindred?
Yeah, so unfortunate, but we are seeing dodge or lose around the map so much. The proactivity is really great, and that's what we love to see, especially with a Kindred who is trying to get every single stack. He's got his team to back him up as well to make sure that he's going to be able to stack up. And I wouldn't be. And how many stacks is she sitting on? The Kindred is currently sitting on 5 stacks, and this is at 11 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's the dreams I have for my solo queue games, but it's not going to be. It's not happening for me at the moment. But looks like Dragon is being secured here by Ardour once again. They did get that Ocean Drake first round. They are getting this second, which is a Mountain Drake, and now. Oh, it's going to be a Cloud Drake game.
Cloud Soul does give a little bit of movement speed. Does give 10% every cloud as well. So if MCom are going to be able to pick up any more dragons, if they pick up the next 4 cloud dragons, it's going to be 40% cooldown reduction. And that's the sort of thing I dream for. So 40% cooldown reduction on my ultimate is muy bene.
Plus, the follow-up with the extra movement speed as well. That really helps, this Olaf here, popping that Ragnarok and getting extra movement speed. Guapo as well, throws down the Eclipse, can follow up with an easy, easy shield bash. But, guess we'll have to see as the last race does land. The flash coming out. Chanting Cristiano trying to go down to Selfish. But this is going to be one dead Ash. Selfish will take his first kill of the game.
Yeah, and the problem with it, the problem that MCom are facing right now is that they don't have enough vision around their ball lane to push up that far. They don't have the safety. They don't have to disengage. And, I mean, yeah, they might have potential to disengage like that, but there's so much engage coming out from Selfish and Suho that with the amount of lockdown that the Senna Thresh provide, there's no way that this Leon is going to be able to disengage that easily from a Thresh.
Well, Suki's going for that roam down bot, but Sohei is there to be that safety net for Selfish, so she won't find too much there, so has to head back to that mid lane to try and soak up as much farm as she can. It didn't touch on this before, but, you know, Xu Xiao was able to get that Rift Herald, but oh my god, Crisp once again, Crisp just being too far forward again, and he's trying to saw that counter gank down bot, but once again, Suho with that land and keeping Selfish alive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Sherp may have felt safe up in that top lane with that control ward as far into that river bush as possible, but it really doesn't give you any credit to be that far up against the Nord. Anyone with that amount of CC, safety CC for that matter, with the Call of the Forge God, they do drop Rift bot lane.
Ooh, the dash center does connect as well, so Baby Cage. Selfish with the Dawn, unable to get it, but here comes both players TPing in from the mid lane. Super Q is there as well, but it's already a double kill over onto Selfish. Heroic entrance being used, trying to knock out Guapo, but it's not going to be enough. And Super Q has to use that second proc of the ultimate to get away. Oh, last embrace though. Shuriken flip back in, but Super Q isn't going to be enough. Guapo is there as well. Selfish, he's on a rampage.
Yeah, Ardour taking this game away. Beautiful balance of tanking that turret as they do manage to get this one in return. Selfish able to secure that turret and giving them a little bit more space and time to open up the jungle for Dodger Lose to get more stacks going, which he is currently sitting on 6, I do know.
I mean, this is a super scary team here at the moment for Ardour. Not sure of what MCom can do to start coming back in this. Already down 9 kills, down 6k gold as well at 15 minutes. It feels like Ardour this starting to run away with this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do have a composition in mind, though. They just don't have enough gold income to actually pull it off. And I mean, Sharp has finished the Titanic Hydra. Ravenous Hydra. But it is still a rough laning phase because he's into an Ornn who doesn't take any damage.
I'll pop the ultimate, but with a Bramble Vest and the Sunfire Cape, it's not. You can't really do too much damage, to that Ornn.
Yeah, and as I was saying, I mean, there is a way for MCom to be able to bring this one back, and they've drafted for a split style composition, and it could work potentially, but they don't have enough gold income. Suho.
Oh, guys tries to go for a cheeky hook, but didn't land it. That's all. Dodge. I found Zeus out here, but looks like they'll be able to back away and continue in this defense of the mid lane tower. As that first Cloud Drake is about to spawn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're getting this all for the priority of the dragon. They want to get that third Drake, get it as soon as possible, and get to that Cloud Soul as soon as possible. And there really isn't too much MCom are going to be able to do against this one. They have, however, they are starting to play around their win condition, which is, or their possible condition, which is sending Chirp in the side wave, making sure he's soaking up as much XP as possible. 4 members or 3 members in the mid lane, but there's the potential for a dive here.
Yeah, well, Lysias hanging around the backside will use the Winds of World, does get the knock up, the 3-man taunt into the ultimate Wombo combo is there. Selfish. He's being unstoppable at the moment. Lysair goes golden. Ragnar getting popped by Zhu Xiao here. These are going to be enough. Lands Respite will heal him up. The taunt again. Lysair playing this so well. Guapo, he's the last man alive in this fight. Double kill going over to the Kindred. And that'll be mid lane. Tier 1 going down as well. As it looks like Chirp went down in that top lane as well.
Yeah, and off the back of that, I mean, yeah, Chirp lost his life up in the top side against an Ornn. I mean, Hanks, quote unquote, he did so much damage over to Chirp. No one was able to watch that. But I mean, that's how far behind Chirp is. Chenico Solaro.
Well, goes for the TP flank. He gets the electrocute off from the gunplay, but it's not going to be enough there. As Dodge and Nectar are pushing in this tier 2 top tower. And that's both tier 2s gone in that top and mid lane. Only the bot remains for the defenses. Now, Rift Herald is spawning in 3 seconds, but I feel like, you know, MCom, they can't really go for that as they can. And they, Ardour, they might try and go for this and even push their advantage even further. But, oh, looks like MCom's going for that Rift Herald here.
This is a smart decision, but they have to be really sure that the Ardour side doesn't have any vision on them, because there's so much potential for a fight here that Ardour can take so easily. We know that they're going to be able to take the 5v5 team fight. MCom do not want to be caught in a position where they are forced to be in a 5v5 team fight, because every single day of the week, at this point in the game, with this game state, they're not going to be able to win these, because they're down just under 9,000. They're just under, a 9,000 goal difference between the two teams. So they cannot afford to take those.
Well, for now, I do like the decision to give that Rift Herald to Chirp. You know, he is going to be in that split pushing role. So, you know, if you get down a couple of towers, you know, threaten even, you know, Ardour with, you know, maybe threatening an inhib tower. That might be the chance that MCom have to get it back into this game. But for now, it's a lot of work here for the red side.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're trying to get something ball lane.
Yeah. I've got the ultimate. Murray gets the proc off to that. Nice riposte there with the knockup. Ragnarok getting popped as well. That's 2 ultimates for 1 here. What are the rest of Ardour doing? They are just sticking around as Shutdown Gold will go over to Chirp. Superkey has to hide in the Shroud as best they can. We'll get the Blast Cone. So Ardour not exactly finding what they can. Might get the Shriek and Flip in a moment, but the auto attack there from Selfish with the extra range, the stacks, and they're threatening this inhib tower now.
Yeah, well, MCom, they committed a lot to that bot lane, and they put so much into making sure this Olaf was going to go down, and they forgot about the rest of the map because Death Sentence lands.
Oh, the hook is in there, the riposte. No, not being able to there. Chance Christian does land onto dodge, but Guapo is so low, there's not really any follow-up CC in this top inhib. Seems to be the first one to fall off this game. Death Sentence going away to suit her. Tries to desperately get out, but this mid lane, already getting pushed in, the tower will fall. And I feel like this mid inhib will go down as well.
Yeah, well, the MCom, they need to take a fight, but really they're not in the position to be able to take one. The next one is the Baron. That's the next objective. That also gives Kindred one of her stacks as well. So honestly, MCom cannot afford to give this one away, because that's gonna be Baron. That's gonna give them the pushing power to get the advantage, push down bot lane, make sure that they get the advantage all around the jungle of bot lane, and see whenever MCom try and contest the next dragon, and it all comes off the back of this next Baron. If they get the Baron, they're going to be able to pressure this ball lane, clear some of the turrets ball lane, get some vision in around that bot side jungle, and then they're going to have prior around dragon.
Well, immediately
Or go
less.
straight.
Yeah, well, we'll clean up that. Oh, that's the first tower of the game here for MCom, as you know, he took the second Rift Herald and about 21 minutes for it to be claimed, but that is Cloud Soul for Ardour. And it's not exactly what MCom wanted, but at least it's not a Infernal Soul.
Yeah, well, definitely not. But now they're rotating for the Baron. MCom, I'm not exactly sure if they have enough wave clear because their Ashe has an Essence Reaver. Building in towards that Zeal item, which I wouldn't be surprised is that Runaan's Hurricane, just for a little bit of wave clear, but also stacks really well with Ashe anyway. But honestly, they don't have enough wave clear to deal with a full-powered push from the side of Ardour. Dangerous spot.
Well, it's a free Baron for Ardour as they do claim it. No team fight trying to fit it in now. As you said, they should be able to rotate to that bot lane. Try and get that last in here down.
Yeah, a little bit too close, but super cute.
Oh, nice play there. Interrupting the Shuriken flip, the Shroud being used as well as Lycia. Oh, he has to commit the ult there to try and get out, but it's not going to be enough to play back into the Winds of War. Meanwhile, Shushi does get caught. The Ragnarok not enough to save his life. Flash being used there. Call the Force Shot as well to try and get the knock up. And with the power of the Baron, they'll be able to take down this tier 2 bot lane sound. March on into that inhib.
Yeah, and they're going for a textbook win here. They're trying to get all 3 inhibitors, make sure they all go down. Selfish, poking them out.
Oh my god, he's trying to kill off Hiroka there. The Ashe Burst not going to be enough. Dodge or lose. Already getting another kill. The ultimate being used by Selfish. Try and do some more damage, but super cute. Able to back away. Selfish, he's there in the backlines. The last Brace will be able to claim that kill. Heroic entrance as well as the last inhib falls. It's just up the Chirp. Shusi and Hiroka able to get it. He goes in, almost takes down Dodge or lose. Still had the Lance Respiro as well, but he knows his limit. The Nexus is bare. It's taking damage, but Ardour, they're going to be playing with their Thrud. And in about 25 minutes, they'll be able to get the win.
Unfortunate time for this side of MCom. They had their win condition and they weren't able to play around it. They weren't able to gain the lead early on. They weren't able to get the split push going. Chirp tried to get some solo XP up at the top lane, and even in the bot lane, dropping a Rift Herald down there as well. But unfortunately, it was a little bit too late to get their split push going online. And at that point, Ardour already had their full team fight composition going. They might not have had the damage output, but they were so far ahead in terms of itemization, in terms of gold, that they weren't actually, that MCom were a little bit too far behind to be able to deal with the amount of resistances, the amount of rotational power and their pushing power that the Ardour side had.
Yeah, well, I guess for now, I mean, you know, the pushing power of Ardour was enough, but it feels like that early game could have gone a little bit better here for MCom, but I guess, you know, we're not really the analysts to talk about what happened in this game, but we do have a couple of analysts, or at least I think they are. I mean, we do have Midnight and the boys on the desk, and, you know, boys, what happened with MCom there?
Thanks, guys, and welcome back to the Analyst there, joined by the cast of the first 2 games. Of course, we have Farfetch and Mendrix ready for you. And can I say, lads, after a game like that, beautiful to witness as we got to see MCom and Ardour butting heads against each other. Now, quite a bit we can look at that game, and I think the first step in this is drafting. Specifically, the 2 things I think we need to talk about is, 1, the jungler win or lose at 20, aka Spear, should not be allowed to get Kindred. He tears people apart in Kindred. It's like the 3rd game in a row people have given him Kindred. Stop! Like, I would do that. Like, what? Who's that guy when you get super zoomed up in his face? He just yells the word "stop" really loudly. Who is that?
I know who you're talking about. Oh,
Me.
Sorry.
Stop! Ah! That was a stop giving him Kindred. The drafting wasn't horrible. I as much as I want to say, oh, why didn't you ban the Kindred? It's obvious. There is a ray of hope that did come out, which was that top lane there, where we did get to see the Fiora try and fight back against this Ornn.
Yeah, this is the thing. Whenever I watch like competitive League of Legends, be it top level, kind of more amateur games, things like that, anywhere, my favorite thing is seeing someone blind pick an Ornn, as we saw happen there, and then for it just to get counterpicked by some sort of in-your-face aggressive carry style character. Now, Fiora, maybe not the same early game as a lot of others, but she was still picked into the Ornn, saved very late into the draft. Of course, you have to blind something eventually, and as the game went on, Ornn just kind of froze her out pretty early into the piece. I mean, we saw a bit of fighting up in the top lane, and I believe Fiora actually got double buffs and still just couldn't find any big impact onto the Ornn. And the second the freeze was broken, you better bet that the entire squad came up top lane, hit that dive, and Fiora was just not having a good time from there on out.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it, Mendrix, when we were watching that game, is you said to this, like you said, okay, he's got his Sunfire, Ornn has the Bramble Vest.
Yeah.
Fiora is not doing anything until she gets a Trinity Force and a Ravenous Hydra. And she did get a Trinity Force and a Ravenous Hydra as the Nexus fell.
I mean,
So it's like by the time...
It's too little too late. That's the big thing we have to take into account here. I mean, you could tell, all right, I've got a cull. The cull means that I will be able to get to my items a little bit quicker, but it's just so disrespectful. And Nectar, I mean, it's just very typical for Ardour to do that to Nectar. Basically say, look, dude, we want you to take the weak side top tank, okay? You go ahead and you do this. We know you're basically going to be a bloody pillar regardless. Doesn't matter whether or not you're going to be thrown under the bus. You're basically going to be a bollard that the bus needs to run into, and it's going to get destroyed. And that's just the typical Nectar things. In fact, this entire draft just screams it. We've got that priority in the bot lane. We've got the idea as well that we have to take into account that we've got priority getting the Kindred as well. When they realize, hey, they left it open, we might as well get it for dodge or lose. Everything was just set up for it. And Nectar, he just filled his slot perfectly, which is why this Fiora couldn't do anything.
Now, there was, it was the right idea, I think, that came out of MCom. It's okay, let's get the Fiora into the Ornn. We can try and work around this, but they ran out of time. And speaking of running out of time, you both of you already know what you're coming. Chat, hopefully I would love to call your attention to the play at 17 minutes, where we got to see Ardour perform a spectacular tower dive, dancing between the tier 1 and 2, and didn't end up, I think they aced MCom and didn't even lose a man to boot.
It was absolutely just the nail in the coffin, really. Everything was basically set up beforehand as well. They basically had set up the bot lane vision or the bot jungle vision that allowed Lycia to slip in and make that play. That essentially was them saying, we'll have the pressure in, basically everyone else of that 4-man unit. Lycia immediately saw it executed and just ran it down perfectly. So there's not much they could do. I think that ended up skyrocketing them from being actually at a 7k gold lead up to that 10k, and we knew it was just insurmountable from there.
It's brutal to watch something like that. Hopefully we will be getting it up on stream for you guys so you can just witness just how are you meant to stop this from MCom? Because by the time you realize, because you said before, they dropped wards on the bottom half of the map, so they knew that MCom couldn't ambush them from below. And then suddenly they realize, oh crap, we've got Lycia in the middle of us of getting like a 3-man Galio taunt, and you've got Suho being like, I got the chain, buddy, let's do this, like hanging on the side. Like what can you do as MCom here other than just, die?
Yeah, that's the big question. And I mean, like when Galio got that slight tweak to the W where you can no longer flash in the middle of it, people were like, "Yeah, there we are. There's the replay."
That's disgusting.
Like, I think we just let this play itself out there because the counterattack wasn't a horrible start from MCom here. We do see Guapi as well as I think that's Leets, one of Leets' many alt names, trying to fight back at the end. But you've lost your Ashe, who had died with flash and heal up and available there. Super Cute Sakali burnt the flash at like the last moment, trying to disengage and just couldn't get out. It's like watching people walk through quicksand. You know how it's gonna end, but you can't take your eyes away from the fascinating view.
Well, I've got the answer, right? So the answer is you don't walk through the quicksand. And what I mean by that there is you don't lose so damn hard early, because we could see what even meant to happen. At 3 minutes, level 3, there was that massive fight that they went through. Kindred walked away with 2 kills. Now, even though it was a 2 for 2, that's a lot of gold on someone who knows how to pilot Kindred. You could really see the response afterwards. Kindred was basically dominating the jungle afterwards. No way that Olaf could actually get back into it. From that point onwards from there, that ended up basically spilling into the rest of the lanes. And every time they tried to make a play happen afterwards, Lycia was just sitting there ready to ult in. And they ended up losing more than they gained every single time. And so when this 17-minute mark came around, I said it in the previous game before, the stick was just too damn big.
And it does hurt. I mean, you've got someone like Lasser who last split was very vocal about his confidence in mid lane, has apparently been receiving some love of coaching as well. So he's feeling quite confident about himself. I'm sure he's going to start talking mad smack in Twitch chat soon about just how he was going there. Now, the final bit before we do wrap up for the night, guys, because of course we have done our 3 games. And Fetch, I'm going to throw this a bit more towards you for this one. Ardour, they looked very strong in the team, as we saw. We saw Nectar doing his job as that brick in the top lane. And we did get to see Spears Kindred just pop off as we always expected to. But from the side of MCom, if you were to replay that match, what area, like if you could change one thing about that match, replay it, what do you think you would change about the way that MCom tackled it? Was it the draft? Was it the early game skirmish? Like, what would you change?
I think that, like, Mendrix, you hit him in the head pretty well. That fight, don't run into that fight. Like, sometimes you just got to take your losses, it felt like. Some of their, like, reactions to fights and things like that were a bit weird. Sometimes they just felt like they're a bit on the wrong page. Something I did think was interesting from MCom is, of course, their first ban was the Zac, and it takes away a champion who can hit those long-range engages, who can just be an absolute nuisance into your backline. And Ardour ended up swapping it over to the Galio and having the same effect. But I think you've got to take these priority bans of, like, the Thresh and the Kindred. And sure, Thresh didn't have a huge impact on that one. Had a few good roams. Got 2 kills off early roams before 10 minutes. And, you know, I mean, there was just some huge plays from the AD carry from Ardour. But it felt like, yeah, I mean, games won and lost in draft is an absolute meme. But, like, don't give over 2 players who are very, very good and probably going to be fierce players to watch in the rest of the league run with 2 of their most comfortable characters. Sure, it's hard to shut them down because they're still good, and sure, Thresh didn't have as much of an impact, but realistically, did Suho actually need to do actually need to do that much more in that? Like, the team was kind of happy, and Suho can kind of sit back and try and hit those clips like we were talking about before. So that's like the first point, the skirmishes later on, and then after that, your only win conditions getting shut down in the top lane. That's kind of it for me.
It's a bit rough when that happens. And I mean, as you're talking about letting people get their champions, I mean, sure, Suho didn't land as many, spectacular OMG, look at these hooks, but the man was fishing. We were talking about it during the game. The man rushed 45% CDR and just kept throwing out the hooks, and eventually they'll start landing, and eventually he'll get those key hooks that get him. I mean, hell, the man has Thresh tattooed on his body. All right? That's probably like the hallmark of saying, ban this champion. It's like naming yourself after your champion. You're begging people to ban you out there. As that is going to be it from us, guys. Of course, a quick wrap-up from the other teams that we have seen finish so far. Stormwolves do take the win over Kraken Pink over in the sides of Group D. Kraken Black do take down Fake down in, which group is that one? Group B. The Weekend Warriors take out the Dark Horses over on the side of Group A. And of course, as we did get to witness on stream, Ardour did take down MCom in Group B as well. Now, guys, there is still other games. Next week, 7 o'clock, same time, same place. We have week number 2 of our round robin ready to go with our analysts and casters itching at the bit to dive into it. So, guys, on that note, thank you so much for watching throughout the course of the night, and we'll see you next week for week 2 of the Invitational.